I'm going to take down my information. I'll put this back up at the end of class if you didn't get a chance to get it. But before we get into the actual program, I do want to share with you all one website that you might find helpful after today. And that is har.com/matrix. har.com/matrix. Okay. Now it does have a timeline on here. If you're not aware, Fusion was deactivated this past Tuesday. Matrix will be deactivated on November 14th. So that is the timeline for how this is going on. But if you keep scrolling, you're going to get access to a lot more helpful information. Hands-on classroom training, if you want to take this 4-hour class again, you can absolutely do so. Sign up for it there. Online webinars. At this time, I am hosting 1 webinar a week, so you can sign up for those webinars. They're free. You can do them from anywhere. You can ask live questions. A lot of people will take the 4-hour class and then maybe a couple hours later go take the webinar, right, just to get a refresh. So you can definitely sign up for that. Video tutorials, I have about a dozen or so videos there that you could take a look at. The very first video that you're going to see here is a, if it'll load for me here, it is actually a recorded version of that 1-hour webinar that I just talked about. So if my webinar schedule doesn't work with your schedule, you can always come click on this video tutorials section here and check out those video tutorials. And actually, since we are recording today's class, today's class that you guys are in right now, will also be here on this video tutorials section here pretty soon. So if you missed something in class today, you guys get the added benefit of being able to go and rewatch it if you want. And then lastly, Quick Start Guide. Kind of a misleading title, but that is the 59-page manual for this class. Okay, you can go here, you can download the manual, it's a PDF, you can download it or you can print it. I would encourage you all to do one or the other. As we go through today's session, they did provide you guys with notepads. I would encourage you to take notes. For certain key points, I will tell you, you can find this on page 18 in your manual, for example. So I would encourage you to do just that. Take notes. Jot down the page number if I give you one, that way you know where to find it in the manual after class, okay? And then there's some additional FAQs and tips and things like that that you can take advantage of. So again, this website was again har.com/matrix. So now I'm going to go ahead and go to har.com and log in the top right-hand corner with my user ID and password. Okay. Now once I log in, that takes me to the dashboard in the members only portal. On the right hand side of the screen we see Intertempo, or excuse me, Intermatrix, Intertempo, Interfusion. These are, yes, still here, but if you go try to click on them, it's going to tell you Fusion's deactivated. This one will tell you you have 25 days to learn Matrix before Tempo's gone, and then we can go ahead and enter Matrix at this time. All right. So this is the main screen of Matrix. Now I see a lot of you are following along on your computer. You might be looking at your computer, comparing it to mine and saying, mine looks different than hers. Well, it's supposed to. This main screen of Matrix is completely customizable. You can actually click, hold, and drag and reorganize these different widgets on your screen. These boxes here are actually called widgets. So you can move them around on your screen. You can actually remove them from your screen altogether. Now let's say I was playing around with this and I accidentally removed one from my screen. Okay, that's okay. It's not gone forever. It's just moved down into this widget at the bottom here called Additional, so I can actually go click, hold, and drag and move it back up here to wherever it is I want to have it. So what I want to do, I just want to take a few minutes to go through these widgets, explain to you what you have here. These aren't just here to look pretty. Some of these widgets actually have pretty significant jobs as well. So I want to explain those to you before we get into some other Matrix settings and searching. So starting with news and alerts, this is actually the only widget that you cannot move on your screen. You also cannot remove it from your screen. If you try to move it, it won't go anywhere. And the reason is you're going to see important information pop up from time to time in this news and alerts section. You may log into Matrix one day and it just pops up on your screen, some important news that we want you to know about. This actually comes from HAR. So it's not coming from the Matrix developers, it's coming from HAR. So let's say down the road maybe there's this new MLS rule. Well, that's important. We need to make you all aware of that. So we can actually pop up a little news alert in here letting you know there's a new MLS rule, click here to read about it, okay? So just be aware if you ever have something pop up on your screen, that's what that is for. My listings, this one's pretty self-explanatory, but you'll see your listings, your office listings, and your firm listings all on here. So if you're looking for quick access to inventory, things like that, this is going to be a helpful way to access them. My cart. Carts are a new feature for us. We did not have carts in Tempo or in Fusion, but what carts are, they're intended to be a folder or placeholder for properties until you're ready to do something with those properties. So let's just say, for example, maybe I'm working on something for client A. And as I'm working on something for client A, I come across a couple properties that client B might be interested in. But I don't want to stop my work yet for client A. I also don't want to forget about those properties for client B. So I could actually select those properties, set them in client B's cart, then when I'm ready, 30 minutes from now, 2 hours from now, 5 days from now even, I could go access client B's cart, and then I'll be able to actually select the properties that are in client B's cart, and then I'll be able to perform any of the actions we see here to those properties. So if you can't see that, I can email them from here, text them, get driving directions, do a CMA at this point. So basically these carts are just intended to be a folder or placeholder for properties, an organizational tool for you to use in Matrix, okay? So later on in today's class, I will show you all how to add properties to a cart. I will also maybe give you some different examples of ways you could use these carts, okay? So that's one new tool right there that we do have. My favorite searches, just like in Tempo and Fusion, you can have an unlimited amount of searches saved in Matrix. You can, however, notate up to 10 of them as a favorite search. The idea behind this is that I have quick access to the most up-to-date search criteria for that search because I've made it a favorite. It's right here on my home screen. For example, if I want to go see, 77546, 300,000 to 400,000 with a pool, if I go click on that, it's going to immediately give me the most up-to-date results for that search, okay? So just like you saved searches in Tempo and Fusion, you can do that same thing here in Matrix, but I can make up to 10 of them a favorite search, so I have quick access to them on my home screen. So we'll look at that more later when we talk about saving searches. My stats, we'll talk about stats towards actually the end of class, but I just want you to see that this is here. We'll touch back on that later. We have hot sheets and we have market watch. Now hot sheets, how many of you currently use hot sheets in Tempo and Fusion? Okay, one person uses hot sheets. I know more of you use hot sheets. So what do hot sheets have on them? Nobody?
Well, it shows you what the new listings or new activity is.
Yeah, new listings, maybe back on market, expired, terminated, so changes, right? Hot sheets show us changes that have taken place in the MLS. Well, we have hot sheets in Tempo and Fusion. You also have them here in Matrix. On page 5 of that manual I showed you all, it talks about customizing these hot sheets. So for example, if you see where it says single family right now in this hot sheet, and then down here it says today, what that's indicating to me is if I were to click on single family, it's going to show me all of the changes that have taken place in the single family property type today. So if I click on that, there's going to be hundreds, I'm sure. Yeah, 451 changes today in single family. Now, the reason there's so many is because the system is defaulted to show you all of the changes in the entire MLS. well, maybe I don't need to see all of the changes. Maybe I just need to see new listings and back on market, or maybe I just want expired, terminated, and I only want them in this particular zip code, or whatever the case is. So you can get in here and you can actually customize these hot sheets. If you see in that widget, it does say customize. I can go and I can update the search criteria on one of the defaulted hot sheets you have here. So if you see, I could select one and hit edit criteria, or I could click add and create an entirely new hot sheet and name it whatever I'd like, right? So again, this is on page 5 in the manual. I would encourage you all to take some time to set these up if you think these are going to be a beneficial tool to you. Just go through and either edit what you have here or create some new hot sheets and set this up to work for you. I've had some members say things to me like, you know, I'm just afraid to customize too much because I don't want to mess anything up, okay? I promise you all, you cannot break Matrix, okay? You can't break it. They make it very easy to customize. As you can see, I just click these buttons here, but also they make it very easy to undo whatever customization I did. So I could select one and hit reset criteria, or I could hit restore system defaults and restore all those hot sheets back to the system defaults if I decided I wanted to go back to them. Yes, sir, do you have a question?
When you add one, does it just go alphabetically, or does it set a subfolder?
It will have, so if I were to create another one like single family test, it actually just puts them there, yeah. But you can reorganize them if you see move up, move down. And then if I want to delete that one, very easy to just simply delete it. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my home screen here, hit the home button. Now Market Watch is new. It's kind of an at a glance hot sheet, if you will. So again, at a glance, I see in single family, in the last 24 hours, there's been 412 new listings, 194 sold, 94 terminated, right? So I see these changes at a glance. Now, again, the reason there's so many is it's showing me the entire MLS. Well, maybe I don't need to see that. Maybe I just want to focus on this particular geo market area, or maybe just this one zip code or a couple zip codes. Or maybe I just want to see what's going on in this one subdivision. I'm keeping an eye on this one subdivision, right? You can, whatever the case is, the idea behind this widget is you decide what your market is, and then you come in here and customize the search criteria to show you what's going on in your market, right? So, like I said, there's a lot of different criteria we could put in as far as location. And I apologize, it's going slow. My hotspot is actually going pretty slow. I'm going to move this closer to the window. Sorry, Claudia. We'll see if that helps at all. There we go. Okay, so I have a lot of different search criteria that I could utilize in here. Like I said, a geo market area, zip codes, you know, subdivisions, things like that. Somebody give me just one zip code for us to try.
77429.
Thank you, 77429. Now I could put in more criteria. Maybe I'm looking in 429, but only at a particular price point, right? So you can put more criteria. I'm just going to hit the blue save button at the bottom so we can see what this looks like. So now it's going to take me back to the home screen, and I see in single family, in the last 24 hours, there's 13 new listings, 4 sold, right? So if I'm the 77429 expert, this is my market, this is where I do, you know, a lot of my business, I need to know what's going on in this area, right? So I log into Matrix, I see, oh, there's some new listings, let me go check them out. So I can click right on that where it says new listings, and here they are, okay? Or if I want to go see what just closed in the last 24 hours, I can go to sold and see what's closed, right? So again, customize this Market Watch, make it work for you. That way, you know, you log into Matrix, you see exactly what's going on with your market, any changes, updates, it's just being displayed right there to you. And then of course, after the fact, if you decided, you know, I want to change that, maybe I want to add on another zip code to that. I could click customize again, or again, I could hit reset and just undo and go back to the system defaults. So again, hot sheets and Market Watch, these are on pages 5 and 6, excuse me, in the manual. So check those out, spend some time setting those up after class. That way you pull them up and it's already ready to go in here for you. Now, before I introduce the next widget to you guys, I do want to tell you, first of all, that you won't see it on your screen unless you've already set one of these up. So if you're going on your screen and you're looking for this widget, you're not going to see it. But before I introduce it to you, I do want to explain a few terminology changes. What I've noticed, in the last year teaching Matrix classes is one of the most difficult things about Matrix for Tempo users specifically that are now starting to use Matrix is the change in terminology between Tempo and Matrix. For example, in Tempo you have what's called prospects, right? You can add prospects, delete prospects, set things up for prospects. Well, in Matrix those are called contacts, okay? So that's a terminology change, and that might not seem like a big deal, but I have had, on more than one occasion, I've taught the whole 4-hour class, showed people how to add prospects, delete prospects, set things up for, contacts. I've shown them how to do that for all their contacts. And then at the end of class, somebody raises their hand and says, okay, but where are my prospects? And I realized they're not making the connection, right? So I'm going to make that obvious to you guys today. If there's a terminology change, I'm going to make you aware of it because somebody actually already asked about this today. And what it used to be called in Tempo was client gateway, right? We had client gateway, and if you're not familiar with that tool, what that does is I can take my client's search criteria, I can put it into the system, and the system will notify my client whenever there's a new or updated listing that matches their criteria, right? We always called that the client gateway. Well, in Matrix, it has a new name. So if you're searching around Matrix looking for the words client gateway, you're not going to see them. It's actually now called auto email. Auto email. So I set up an auto email, and the system creates what's called a client portal. And that's the website where your client is able to review those listings, just like we had before. They had a little website where they could see them, mark favorites, reject properties, make notes, things like that. So again, the terminology change is you set up an auto email, the system creates a client portal that your client can view those properties on, okay? Now, where concierge comes into play is concierge is a feature that is optional to me when I set up an auto email, okay? So when I'm setting up an auto email, I have the choice whether or not I want to initiate concierge mode. And what concierge does is it allows you to filter the properties for your client. So instead of my client getting every property that matches their search criteria, I'll get an email notification letting me know that there's a new listing that popped up for one of your clients. I'll come into Matrix, I'll see, look, there's 5 listings that need my approval for John here. So I could go ahead and click on John's name and review the listings that have popped up for him.
I like that.
So yeah, I mean, it's a great new feature, and I know this is something that you guys probably want. I know that in the past, people would set up the client gateway to go to themselves and then manually go email things to clients. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. You'll get the email notification. You come in here, you can select one, select multiple, or select all of them, and then I can either reject them or I can approve them. If I approve them, he'll receive them right away. If I reject them, he just won't receive them, okay? So this is, again, a way for you to filter properties for your client instead of just them getting everything, okay? So again, later on in class, I'll show you all how to set up auto email. I'll show you how to initiate concierge mode, and then I'll also actually show you what the client portal looks like now. It has changed from what we had before. I think you all will like it. There's a lot more features on it than what we had before. But again, terminology changes. If I mention those throughout class, just maybe jot those down because I don't want you to go looking for client gateway later when it's called auto email, right? Yes, ma'am. Was there a question?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The prospects that we have set up in Tempo, are they going to move to Matrix?
The prospects that you have set up in Tempo have already been moved into Matrix. I'm going to show them to you in just a little bit. Same thing with your searches that you have in Tempo and Fusion have been moved in here. Okay.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
A while ago when you showed the list, when I get a list like that and I want to print it, I'm looking for the print.
So you're looking for the print button. I will show you where print is later on. When we clicked on a cart earlier, it was actually one of the options that we had at the bottom on what we call the button bar. So I will go through it more later on, but just to answer your question really quickly, it's right down here, print. Once you select it, and you'll see print. Yeah, email, same thing. So I'll go through all of that a little bit more later, but all of those features are still there, yes. So just a couple more quick things before we move on from this. Recent portal visitors. Now again, terminology changes. I set up an auto email. The system creates a client portal. These are clients that have visited their portal recently. What's also helpful about this though, not only will you see when they visited their portal, but let's say that they marked a property as a favorite. They made notes on a property. I'll actually see little icons like a little heart, a post-it note, indicating to me, oh, look, they made notes. Let me go see what they said. Or, oh, they marked a favorite. Let me, contact them and see if they want to go view this property, right? So you'll actually see little icons right here in this widget, little heart icon, post-it note, recycle bin if they discarded it. So you'll see those icons there. And then recent use contacts, this is just Matrix trying to help me out. I've done something for them recently in Matrix, so they're giving me their information right here on the screen. External links, you don't have too much new here to see. This was the blue sidebar on the left-hand side of the screen in Tempo, if you all remember that. And then it was a widget called Resources in Fusion. So just some MLS tools, data input sheets, things like that are all there. All right, so that's the home screen. Again, this is pages 4 through 6 in the manual. I would encourage you all to take some time and set up those hot sheets in Market Watch after class, but we're just going to keep building on all of this as we go through today. So at any time, if you want to get back to the home screen, you'll be able to click Home. I'm going to go on over now to My Matrix. So My Matrix, Contacts. What were contacts called in Tempo?
Prospects.
Prospects, right? So they were called prospects in Tempo, contacts in Fusion, and they were called contacts in Matrix. But like I said just a moment ago, all of your Tempo and Fusion contacts have already been brought into Matrix for you, okay? So you should see your Tempo and Fusion contacts here. Now, in the very bottom left-hand corner, you can see where I can add in additional contacts individually. I can also import and export contacts in. So if I have a long list of contacts I'd like to import in, I can do that. Or if I want to export these contacts somewhere else, I can do that as well. When I clicked Add, notice there's a few fields in yellow. Those are the only required fields. So first and last name and email is all that's required. But if you see when I click Show All Fields, it does have room for a lot more information, including a notes section, which some agents are excited about. I can even categorize, bless you, I can even categorize my contacts on here, based on whatever it is that I'd like to categorize them as. So a lot of different options, but all you need is their first and last name and email address. Now, don't just think of this as where you can add and delete contacts, okay? Think of this section as your contact management as far as Matrix is concerned, okay? And bless you. And the reason I say that is because if I click on a contact here, I'm going to see everything I've done for that contact in Matrix. And I can manage it from here. So I see any auto emails I've set up for this contact, saved searches I've associated with this contact, any CMAs that I've done for them, as well as any emails that I've sent that contact. This system will even show me if the client has ever viewed those emails. If you see it right here, it'll say viewed and it'll have a date if they've viewed it, okay? I can also edit my contact, delete the contact. Note that when you delete a contact in Matrix, it does delete everything associated with that contact. So if I delete this contact entirely, it will delete all of this as well, okay? I can start a CMA for them. I can open their client portal and also open their cart. On the top right-hand side of the screen, we do have several icons. Anywhere in Matrix you see icons, if you're not familiar with what they are, hover your mouse over them and Matrix will tell you. So for example, the shopping cart we have here, you can all probably guess that that's your cart, okay? Notice that all of your contacts have a cart. Those of you that are following along, all your contacts do have a cart already created. They're just all empty at this point. They all say 0. So again, later I'll show you how to add things to them. Then we have a post-it note, a heart, a light bulb, and a recycle bin, and those are going to indicate notes, favorites, possibilities, and discards, and that's going to have to do with the client portal, okay? Yes, sir.
Can we share these contacts? We have a very small brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
Can we share these across our own logins?
Can you share them across your own logins? Matrix does have some team settings available in it. When we go to, actually we can look at that together on break as far as the settings are concerned. I'm not sure if sharing contacts is one of the options for team settings, but we can take a look at that.
Like we can do add, change, deletes,
Mm-hmm.
among us.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so what we talk
Yeah, we can look at that for contacts. Okay, so again, this was My Matrix contacts. My Matrix, going to go all the way down to saved searches. A little terminology change here, but again, any change is a change, so I want to point it out to you. These were called custom searches in Tempo. Okay, for Fusion users in the room, they were called saved searches, but they were called custom searches in Tempo. And again, I've had people say, okay, but what about all my custom searches? They're right here. They're just now called saved searches. So you'll see your Tempo and Fusion searches in here. You'll know they came from Tempo and Fusion because they say the word imported next to them. The ones I have that don't say imported are the ones that I've created in Matrix since I started using this program. Now, if you're anything like me, when I first came in here, I had about 700 searches that had come in from both Tempo and Fusion because I used to teach both Tempo and Fusion. You can mass delete. I can select multiple searches, and at the very bottom left-hand corner, click delete. So if you're looking in here and you see some really old stuff that you just need to clean out, now might be the time to do that. Well, maybe not now, but after class might be the time to do that. Okay. Going back up to My Matrix, going down to My Matrix CMAs, you will not see your Tempo and Fusion CMAs in here. We have a CMA wizard in Matrix, but it is a little different than the CMA wizard that you had in Tempo and Fusion. So just be aware of that. Now we do have a CMA class. It's called CMA Price It Right in Matrix. It's a 3-hour free class. We offer it at HAR all the time. So you could go take that class. Also, where I showed you all where we have the video tutorials earlier, there is about a 45-minute long video there going over the CMA process in Matrix as well. And I actually go through the 3 different CMA reports you can do in Matrix in that video. So that website again was har.com/Matrix, where you can find those video tutorials. Okay. And one other note here, it does save the CMAs in here for 180 days past the last modified date. So if a CMA is set to purge soon, you will get a notification, and you could just come in, make a slight edit, and it will save it for another 6 months. My Matrix, I'm going to go down now to My Information. This is a very important section for you all to take a look at before you start using Matrix. This should be kind of priority number 1. If you have a Matrix to-do list, make this your first thing on your Matrix to-do list. And the reason is because these are your Matrix settings, okay? So it's going to be important for you to go through these sections and make sure that you have Matrix set up, you know, the way you want it set up so that a client or customer, when they get things from you, it's going to look the way you want it to look. I want to just take a minute to go through these with you. Now, I know some of you are following along. If you have time to make quick changes, you might want to do that. But this will take you about 10 minutes on break or after class, just maybe 10 minutes of your time to get this all nice and set up. So starting with information, this information was pulled from your MLS roster. You can, on some of these, click override and override the information within a particular field. You cannot override any office information. If you have office information in here that needs updating, let your broker or office manager know. It would have to be updated by them. At the very bottom, there are some new things. For example, a tagline or a slogan. If I want to add that in for branding purposes, I can. Additional information, I put designations in there. You could put area of expertise or specialty, you know, anything you really want to put that you might find beneficial. Now, moving over actually, one thing before I move on. I've had some members see this and say, you know, Christina, I don't want people to see my office fax number, for example. I don't use it. Maybe I don't go to the office or whatever the case is, right? Well, just because we see it here doesn't mean a client or customer will ever see it. And the reason is because Matrix does actually let you pick and choose what a client or customer can see of your information. So you'll see that in the following screens. So moving over now to header and footer. The header is especially important. You also do have the opportunity to upload a custom banner. It just has to meet the sizing requirements that are listed right here. Once I've selected one, I can upload a photo to it. And then if you see here where it says branding, this is where I get to pick and choose what information I want on that header. So again, I don't have to select my office fax number, right? In my case, I put my name, my phone number, my email, my slogan, and my company name. So pick and choose what you'd like to put on there, whatever you deem most important, and then that's what it'll look like every time your client gets those updates. Now, the header and footer can also be used when printing reports. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to print a client full report with my custom header and footer. Well, when I go to print, I'll see the option to do that. So this same header would be used for that, but at the bottom you'll find a footer that kind of matches that header as well. So you can also set this one up and again, pick and choose what information you want on it. CMA cover sheet. Now, if you use the CMA wizard in Matrix to create your CMAs, you're definitely going to want to set this up. On the cover sheet of those CMAs, it will actually pre-print your headshot and your contact information on that CMA. It looks really nice. It's a lot nicer than just paper clipping your business card to the report. They can't lose it, right? So you don't have to do your headshot, but you can put your headshot on there and then, again, pick and choose what contact information you deem important for them to see. Email signature, again, I would encourage all of you to set this up. It will use this email signature every time you email something from Matrix, but it'll also use this email signature anytime something's emailed on your behalf. So even if I set up auto email and they're getting those auto updates that I'm not even having to search, the system's searching for me, it will use my email signature on those every single time. Do yourselves a favor. If you already have an email signature somewhere, maybe Outlook or Gmail or something like that, just copy it from there and paste it into here. Any links that you have and all of that still should work. I actually copied and pasted mine in from Outlook, okay? So do yourselves a favor to make it easier if you do already have an email signature. If you don't, you can create one in here from scratch. They do have a little icon you can click here to add your headshot. They have a little icon in here where you can create links and things like that as well. So you can either copy and paste or create one from scratch. Lastly, and this is brand new to us, but it's called the portal profile section here. So again, when I set up an auto email, the system creates a client portal. One new thing we have on that client portal is a section called My Agent. Okay. So again, every time they get this client portal, there's going to be a little button on the right-hand side that they can click to see information about you, right? They'll be able to click My Agent. You don't want them to click that and see a blank screen, okay? So I would encourage you guys to all set this up before you start using auto email. That way it looks the way you want it to look for a client or customer. So any of them with a check mark are the ones I have on there. Portal greeting, you really could put anything you want in here, a welcome letter or whatever the case is. I just put my bio. I copied and pasted my bio into here. Inventory slideshow and links. If you want to create links to your listings and office listings, all you have to do is check this box. If you get new listings, it auto updates that information. Video. If you have a bio video, if you find some sort of informative video like this one, you can actually have that video also in the My Agent section of your client portal. Now again, I've had some agents say, well, no, that's too tech savvy for me. I don't know what it even means to embed a video, so I definitely can't do it myself. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is copy and paste the YouTube URL into here. So if you can copy and paste, you can do this, okay? So not too tech savvy for you guys, I would imagine. And lastly, contact information. Again, I was able to pick and choose what contact information I want in here. And if you notice, I didn't even use all of the fields. I decided to leave 4 of them blank. So, and I'll show you guys a preview of this later. Even though I left some blank, it actually still looks nice. It doesn't look like it's missing anything. So, okay, so this section again was My Matrix, My Information. This is going to be a very important section for you all to get set up very soon. Again, Tempo is going to be gone in 25 days, so I would encourage you all to set this up so you can start using Matrix, stop using Tempo, and you're not worried how things look on your client or customer's end. Okay? Alrighty. By the way, this section, My Matrix, My Information, this is pages 11 through 15 in the manual. 11 through 15 in the manual, My Matrix, My Information. Are there any questions on anything we've covered so far? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not rushing you, but I'm just curious as to when we'll have our first break.
We're about to take it right now. Okay, so with that being said, we are due for our first break. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. I'm going to put up a 10-minute countdown timer on the screen. Once the timer goes off, we start class back up. Okay? And when you guys come back, we'll start searching. Okay, are we ready? So in the first section of class, we did spend a lot of time on the home screen. I showed you where your contacts are, where your saved searches are, how to set up your matrix settings. Really just wanted to lay the foundation here for what you guys have in front of you and answer some of those questions like, where are my searches, where are my contacts, and things like that. So now we're actually going to get into searching in Matrix, which we'll spend most of our time doing is searching in different ways you can search. There are actually 4 ways that you can search for properties in Matrix that I'm going to show you today, 2 of which you already have been using in Tempo and in Fusion. We have criteria searching and map searching, and you had those in both Tempo and Fusion as well. So we're going to get into criteria searching in just a second. Before we do, though, I just want to briefly touch on add edit. Now, in your on your screen, you'll see add edit. And you see 4 options underneath that. We'll see add edit media, add edit open house, and then matrix add edit, okay? These first 3 you see here, they are still gonna take you back to Tempo. So if I click add edit, it takes me to the Tempo window. It looks like I logged out. So they'll take you back into Tempo, these first 3. Now matrix add edit, if you click on that, it will let you go to this screen, but it won't really let you go too far past that because we haven't activated this for you yet. However, in about 25 days, we will no longer have Tempo to add and edit listings. So that is when the add edit will change for Matrix. Now, I've had some questions about it. Some people a little apprehensive about it. The add edit change is not that big of a change, okay? It is very similar to what you already have. If you are curious and you want to see it before the change actually takes place, one of the video tutorials that I showed you all at the beginning of class, there is one there that's about 40 minutes long and it's going through the add edit process. So if you'd like to see that ahead of time, go check out, again, those video tutorials, and that way you can see what you're going to be using here pretty soon. So just a little note there on add edit. As of right now, yes, if you click on add edit, it will still take you into Tempo. That is by design. Okay, but that will change once Tempo is gone. So now we're going to get into searching, and the first way that we're going to look at searching today is criteria searching. Now again, you've done this before in Tempo and Fusion. You go in, you put in your criteria, you run the search, you get your results, right? So we're going to go through that same process now, but I will show you how some things have changed in Matrix a bit, okay? Now, when I hover my mouse over search, we see every property type listed there, okay? I'm going to focus today on single family, but just to reiterate, lots right down here, rentals right down here. Maybe I'm looking to search townhome, condo, and single family in the same search. Well, I can go down to all properties and select both of them, right? So all property types are there. Agent and office searching, if anyone in the room is a broker or office manager or admin, maybe you do a lot of agent and office searching as part of your daily tasks, those are right there as well. And then more, you'll find things like history searching or archive searching, you'll find open house searching, that kind of stuff and more. Yes, ma'am.
Remember how in Tempo you can do like a customized search? Can you do those in here?
The custom searches, yes, we can still do custom searches. They just call them saved searches now. So I'll show you how to do that later. Yes, absolutely. Okay, So I'm going to go up to single family because, like I said, that's the example we're going to use today, single family. Now, when you hover your mouse over single family, we see two options, quick and classic. Okay? The classic search form looks like this. The quick search form looks like this. Now, I do not have an opinion about anything, okay? If you ask me, I don't have an opinion. However, I will tell you that most of our members do seem to prefer this quick search form, okay? And I believe the reason they do is because, you know, it's a little bit quicker, if you will, to find what you're looking for. They've conveniently put most of the fields that you use most often closer to the top. It's also a little more organized. If I'm looking for a location field, for example, it's right here in location information. If I'm looking for a property information field, it's right here, okay? All of those fields are still on the classic search form. They're just not, as you can see, not as organized. I kind of have to go looking for subdivision, looking for bedrooms, you know, things like that. So it's not as easy to find them here. Yes, ma'am?
I would say when I use that, I do like on the bottom house is 5,000 because as I'm putting stuff in, then I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute, let me redo this because it's like it'll say 0 or
Yes.
like 2, so I'll start adding.
Yeah, so what she's referring to, yeah, thank you. What she's referring to on both the classic and the quick search form, if you see down here at the bottom, it says 5,000 plus matches. So you'll notice as we enter in criteria in just a bit, that number starts reducing as you enter in criteria, which is really exciting and helpful, yeah. So again, you're welcome to use either the quick or the classic. Since most of our members do prefer the quick, I'm going to be focusing on the quick search today. But after today, if you want to use the classic, go for it, okay? Now, this form, we could just go in and put in criteria, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here because there are some things that have changed a little bit, and we have some brand new things here that we didn't have before. So I want to go through this form with you guys a little more in depth before we put in criteria and get that criteria search practice in. Starting with status, it's very easy to tell right now what statuses I have selective. I have active, option pending, pending, continue to show, and pending. I can very easily uncheck there. For example, if I only want to search actives, I can do that. If I want to check those again, I can check those again. And then if I want to hit sold, maybe I'm looking for comps, I can check sold. Notice when I checked sold, however, it popped up 0-180. Okay? The system is actually defaulted to search 6 months back. Okay, which is really helpful. Now, let's just say maybe in this particular case, maybe I can only go 90 days back. Well, I could just go change that 180 to 90. I could change that 90 to 365. Or do you all see? Yeah, exactly, the little calendar icon. Some people don't know what that is, but that is a calendar icon there. I could go click on the calendar icon and maybe I want a more specific date range. I don't want to go 90 days back, but I want all the solds as of July 1st, for example. Well, I could go find July here, July 1st, come back, find today, hit OK, and now I'm searching specifically July 1st through today. Okay, so you can do this on any of them. If you leave it completely blank, what do you think it does? Everything, right? No range on my solds, okay? Which some people have asked for. Hey, how do I do that? Well, this is how. So on any of the statuses here, you can, pick a date range, you can do a specific date, or, whatever you want to do there. Even on actives, for example, maybe I want all the actives from within the last week only. Well, now I can do that, right? So a lot of options, but the big takeaway here is solds are now defaulted to search 6 months back for you. Okay, so actually, before I move on from that, I've had a few people ask, because Matrix does have a lot of customization, is there a way for me to only search actives by default? Okay, you can do that. So when I first pulled up this search form, it had all 4 of these statuses selected. But what I can do is I can uncheck, for example, the pendings and only leave active checked. And then over here on the right-hand side of the screen, do you guys see this little gear icon? Anytime you see this gear icon, that means there's customization that can be done. So if I click on that gear icon, I can hit set currently selected search criteria as my starting default, and then every time I pull up the single family quick search form, I'm only going to be searching active. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. If that's something that applies to you, you only like to start your searches with active, you might want to go ahead and do that. If not, you can just leave it the way it is defaulted to be. Now, if you do it and then you change your mind, the other option there is to reset the system search criteria. So again, the undo button, if you will.
Where was that?
That's a little gear icon right here in the top right-hand corner. Okay, moving on to price and DOM. On price, notice list and sold are in the same field now. They used to be separate fields, they're not anymore. Then to the right of that, Fusion users in the room have seen this before, but if you've not seen this, it says 0, 0, zeros, and then it has a checkbox next to it. What that means is because I have that box checked, the system is defaulted to assume that I mean thousands, okay? So for example, let's say I'm looking for a property in the $300,000 to $400,000 price range. I'll just put in 300-400. Now it may look to you like I'm searching $300 to $400, but as we pointed out earlier, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it says I have 5,000 plus matches. If it was $300 to $400, we would not have 5,000 plus matches, would we? In single family, we'd have 0, right? And if I wanted to check that, notice when I uncheck that box, 0 matches, right? So just be aware of that. You can check or uncheck that box. And the reason I say you can check or uncheck that box, I've had some members say to me, Christina, I have counted those 5 zeros in tempo for 15 years. I like counting zeros. They make me happy, whatever the case is, right? You can still do that. Just make sure you uncheck that box, right? Because now what am I searching? 300 to 400 million. And again, yes, 0 matches, okay? If I were to uncheck it, it knows 300 to 400,000, okay? So do what you like. If those zeros make you happy, just make sure you uncheck that box. Alrighty, so now on page 18 in the manual, it talks about numeric fields. Numeric fields would be any field that you type numbers into, right? So in this case, it'd be price, DOM, CDOM, any of these property information fields, and also street number. These are all going to be numeric fields. So in Tempo and in Fusion, on all of our numeric fields, we had a begin range and we had an end range, right? We don't see a begin range and end range here, so we have to figure out a new way to use these numeric fields, okay? I'm going to use beds as my example, and I believe that's the example on page 18 as well. So on beds, let's say I'm looking for a property with a minimum of 4 bedrooms. I'm going to put in 4 plus. Okay. If I am looking for 4 and only 4 bedrooms, no more, no less, I'll just put in 4. If I'm looking for a maximum of 4 bedrooms, it could be 1, 2, 3, but no more than 4, I will put 4 minus. And then if I'm looking for a range, okay, let's say 4 to 5 bedrooms, I can put 4-5. Okay? So on any of these numeric fields, this is going to be the process you use. So earlier, I said I was looking in the $300,000 to $400,000 price range, so I put 300-400, right? Well, what would I put if I was looking over 500,000? 500 plus, right? What would I put if I'm looking under 800,000? 800 minus, right? What if my client said we need at least 4,000 square feet? 4,000 plus, right? What if they said between 4 and 5,000 square feet? 4,000-5,000, right? And then what if they said no more than 5,000 square feet? 5,000 minus, okay? So this is where I've noticed that members make the most mistakes when they're first starting off with Matrix, okay? Because it does take a little getting used to, as you guys are saying. It does take a little getting used to. I'll get phone calls from members after classes, and they say, Christina, I'm trying to use Matrix, but I'll run a search in Tempo, and then I run that exact same search in Matrix, and I get different results. And my answer to them is usually, well, you're not running the exact same search, okay? And it's usually because they've done something like, well, you know, my client said they want a property built after the year 2010. Well, what did I do wrong? I forgot the plus, so what am I searching? Only 2010, right? So if I want 2010 and beyond, I'd put plus, right? Or my client said they want at least 3,000 square feet, and they put in 3,000. Well, I'm only searching exactly 3,000 square feet at this point, and notice I only have 33 matches in the entire MLS. Well, that's why they're not getting any results, okay? And they're thinking that Matrix doesn't work. So just remember, in most cases, you're going to need the plus, the minus, or the range, right? Now, there will be cases where you just put the numeric value with no symbol. For example, let's say I'm looking for comps, and my subject property is a 2-story home. Well, I just want to search 2. Right? So I would just put 2. Or, you know, I only want to see the other 4 bedrooms to start. Well, I can just put 4. Okay? But in most cases, you're going to need the plus, the minus, or the range. So just be aware of that. Now, you do not have to memorize this. Okay? Again, it's on page 18 in the manuals. But also, do you see the question marks next to each one of these fields? If you hover your mouse over that question mark, it reminds you of how to use it. Okay? So it says enter 10 for exactly 10, 10-50 for the range, 10 plus for 10 or more, 10 minus for 10 or less.
Can you do 1.5 for the 1.5 stories?
You can, yeah. So if I'm looking for 1.5 or 1.5 maximum, how would I do 1.5 maximum? 1.5 minus, right? Yeah. So you can still do that. Or if I only want 1.5, I can do that, right?
Same with bathrooms?
I'm sorry?
Same with
No, with bathrooms it's going to be a little different. So yeah, good question. So 1.5 stories I would put 1.5, but with bathrooms we have full and we have half.
Oh, there's that.
Right. So if I want, no, you're fine. If I want a minimum of 3 full and a minimum of 1/2, well, I could put that. Yeah.
What if you don't put anything then?
Then it just will leave it as open. So if I just say they want at least 3 full baths and leave half baths empty, it'll still find half baths, but it's just not going to require it. Okay. Alrighty, so those are our numeric fields. Again, it just takes a little bit of practice. Once you've done the searches a couple times, you'll start getting used to the new process. And then again, these question marks are not going anywhere, so hover your mouse over them if you ever forget. Moving down to location information. None of these fields are new. I've had some members ask me that. I think it's because they're nice and organized now that we see them that maybe we didn't before. One thing that has not changed between either system, okay? If I'm looking for more than one bit of criteria in the same field, for example, let's say I'm looking in 2 different zip codes, 77058 and 77059, well, I would just separate those with a comma, okay? So that has not changed. That was the same way in Tempo and in Fusion. Some of these fields have information boxes next to them, some do not, okay? The information boxes next to them, what that indicates to me is that if I try to type something into that field there, we'll see it's pulling from a predetermined list, okay? If I try to type into either street name, zip code, or subdivision, which do not have an info box, you'll notice it's just going to let me freehand type whatever I'd like to, okay? So just be aware of that. Now, if you're not familiar with some of these, for example, geo-market area is one that more agents are becoming aware of. Maybe they didn't really know how to use it before. You can click on the information box to see a full list of what's in that option there for any of them. All right, now we do still have search symbols and wildcards. For anyone that used the percentage sign in Tempo or the minus sign in Tempo, you still have symbols for that, but they have changed. I just want to make you all aware of this. We don't have time to go through several examples, but just so you're aware, the percentage sign has changed to an asterisk, and the minus sign has changed to an exclamation point. Now, this is on page 19 in the manual. There are examples on page 19 that I would encourage you to check out. Now, a few people were looking at me like, what is she talking about? I've never heard of the percentage sign. That's okay. Check out page 19, what they were. They're search symbols and wildcards, and they just allow you to either expand upon your search or maybe have a more exact search in some cases when you're trying to remove things.
A very long ago, the Astra was a wild card.
It was?
That the percentage sign is now.
Okay. And so now it's the asterisk
But it
again.
wasn't, whatever we used before tempo.
Tempo, yeah. So we're back to the asterisk.
We did not.
All right. So one last thing before we move away from this, I just want to remind you all, and this has not changed, but I want to remind you all that you can use these fields in conjunction with each other, okay? So let's say I'm maybe looking in the energy corridor, geo-market area, energy corridor. It says down in the bottom left-hand corner, it might be hard for somebody in the back to see, but it says I have 288 matches. Now, what if I also want it to be zoned to Katy ISD? Well, if I put in Katy, now I have 17 matches, okay? So just be aware that you can use more than one of these fields. It's just going to continue to take away from your matches as you do. Yes, sir?
Suppose I've got that all filled out, but I want my client to see what I did in the search. I'm looking at that print icon up there.
So if you want your client to see what search,
Print that.
you want to print this screen, there isn't a way to print that. You would have to do maybe a print screen on your computer or in your computer settings if you want to do print. You don't really have to do that though. When we look at the search results later, it will actually display what your criteria was at the bottom. So if you'd like your client to be able to see what criteria you used, it will show that. So I'll point that out to you guys a little later. Okay, scrolling down, this is new, schools, okay. Some of you may have taken a Matrix class already. This was not a defaulted part of the form until about August or so. So if you took it several months ago, it wasn't already on there. But schools are no longer dependent on what the listing agent put in, okay? And that has been the case for a couple years now. When HAR redid our website, we went in, we got all the school data for the entire state of Texas because we have listings all over now. But what they did was they got all that school data and we actually update that data ourselves, okay? So when there are new schools built, lines redrawn, HAR, we update that information ourselves. So because we update it ourselves, we don't get it from a third-party vendor or something like that. We know it's accurate data, okay? So if you haven't noticed, when you go look up your listings on HAR.com, it will say what schools it's zoned to, whether or not you put anything in, okay? So since that's now the case, I can actually search by schools and know that it's going to be accurate data, okay? So maybe my client doesn't care what subdivision they're in. They just really want to be zoned to Clear Springs High School. Well, I can just put in Clear Springs High School, and I have 206 matches. Right? Or if they want Clear Springs or Clear Creek, now I can search both of those schools. They want to be zoned to one of them, right? Well, now I can put both. Or I can also take advantage of this not, right? Maybe they want to be in a particular zip code or geomarket area or whatever the case is, but they don't want to be zoned to Kingwood Park, for example. Well, I can put Kingwood Park, not. So it won't pull any houses that are zoned to Kingwood Park in this example, yeah. Nothing against Kingwood Park, just using an example. Okay, now on the schools, notice you do have information boxes next to these as well. So if you do want to see a full list of the schools, you can click on that and see the full list. A lot of schools, especially elementary schools, tend to be named after people. Right? You might have first, middle, last name elementary, okay? But I didn't even know it was first, middle, last name elementary. We just all call it Lincoln, right? Lincoln Elementary. Well, it does actually do a keyword search. So you don't have to know the full school name or type the full school name. If I go to type in Lincoln, for example, notice it found Gregory Lincoln, Juarez Lincoln, Lincoln Elementary in Edinburgh ISD, and Lincoln Elementary in Montgomery ISD, okay? So it does do a keyword search. Like earlier, I searched for Clear Springs High School. Well, I started typing in Clear and it came up, but I could have also started typing in Springs and it would come up, okay? So just wanted to point that out to you that it does do a keyword search, which is really helpful. Scrolling down to property characteristics, really no change here for my Tempo users in the room. It looks almost exactly the same as it did in Tempo. For any Fusion users or new members in the room, I do want to take a moment to explain the and, or, and not. Again, it hasn't changed from tempo, but I just want to explain in case anybody doesn't understand. Let's just say, for example, I have 3 options selected here, okay? And I have and selected. What I'm telling the system by having and selected is we need a breakfast room and a den and a family room. If I have or selected, that means we need a breakfast room or a den or a family room. So in that case, let's just say maybe I have a couple down here, garage, apartment, guest suite, and guest suite with kitchen. Well, I need one of those by putting or, right? And then not could mean maybe not foreclosure, not deed restrictions, not historic restrictions, right? So you can use the and, or, and not. Just be aware that it will affect the search. If you noticed when I had breakfast room, den, and family room selected and I had and, it dropped to about 1,000 matches, okay? So just be aware of that. Now, remarks, you can search public and realtor remarks for keywords. You will need to use the wildcards. You will need to use the asterisks when you do this. Hover your mouse over these and it will explain to you how to do that. We just don't have enough time today to really go through some specific examples. Now, at the very bottom of our search form, and this is going to be on page 20 in your manual, and I'm just going to remove these really quick. On page 20 in the manual, it talks about additional fields. As you've seen on this search form, there's a lot of different options as far as searching, but there could still be something else that I'm looking for a client, right? For example, an increasingly popular consumer demand, front door faces. Yeah, and Harvey, right? So those fields, if I click add, I can go find front door faces, right? And I can hit add, and that's going to add it to my search form. Or Harvey, right?
Now, front
We
door
do have,
faces isn't a required field.
yes, it is not a required field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So the Harvey fields are not required either, by the way.
No.
Yes. So, yeah, so be careful, right? So if you just, it's listed in here, home flood Harvey, or if you just go to search the word Harvey, you'll find it. But it's called home flood Harvey.
But also a lot of agents are putting in there, and it was, there's some groups that were created right after Harvey, which there's only like 3,500 agents in that group. I'm surprised, but it was created right after Harvey. And that specific agent that created it asked agents to put high and dry post Harvey in agent remarks, and I'm so surprised how many agents didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
But you can
Anyway.
search on it now.
I'm still surprised agents don't put
And some of
did
them
not
don't
flood
even
Harvey
have the known.
that code that's here that Har created like right after Harvey. I'm so surprised. Sorry, it's my little spiel.
It's okay.
So surprised that agents did not put no or yes, because there's a lot of agents and buyers searching for that.
Right.
Sorry, gotta input that. Sorry.
They
Yeah.
didn't update it.
So be aware if you have listings currently and you weren't aware that you can put if the home flooded during Harvey, yes or no, you can edit that and change that in your listing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so some of the agents do not put that the front door faces
Right.
north-south.
Right. So the point I'm going to make here is that I can add these fields. Just be aware that not every listing agent will put them in. Okay. So maybe I start my search with just looking for the ones that face east or do not face east or whatever the case is. But I need to be aware that I may be missing out on some that do face east or don't face east because it just depends on what they put in. Okay. But again, as a listing agent, might be something to consider if you want to add that in since so many consumers are asking for it.
But we
Okay.
may be ruled out if we put that too.
Okie dokie. So let's go ahead and put in a bit of criteria here and run our search. So somebody give me maybe a zip code or a geomarket area for us to search.
77070.
Thank you. 77070. Thank you. So it says I have 154 matches. All right. Now what price range or price point are we looking at? Anybody can answer. In 77070, what are we looking for? 200 to 250. So how do I put that in? 200 dash 250. Yes, very good. Now I have 36 matches, okay? So again, you see how as we enter in criteria here, it's going to continue to reduce the number of matches. Yeah. All right, do we want to put anything else? 4 bedrooms? 4 and only 4, or a minimum of 4? 4 plus, okay, which means a minimum of 4, right? 4 and up. Very good.
Active.
And you only want active. Okay, so I can uncheck that. So now I have 21 matches. So you guys can see that, again, as you enter in data, check that live count. It is such a helpful feature, especially when you're looking for comps, because maybe I'm looking for comps and I put in square foot range and it drops to 0 matches. Well, I immediately know I need to go widen that square foot range, right? So it's really helpful. It doesn't matter which map or results I click, they take me to the same map and the same results. So I'm going to go ahead and click on map so you guys can get a preview of this. Now in just a minute we're going to spend a lot of time on the map. So we'll come back to this, but I want to give you a little preview now and show you just a couple things. Notice I can zoom in or zoom out over here on the right hand side by clicking the plus or minus signs. Now if I hover my mouse over a property, I see the price, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, but I can also click on a property and see more information there. So notice when I click on a property, I see the address, a photo, clickable MLS number, and some information about that property there. This is something else new for Tempo users. Do you guys see that little box there? It's a selection box. So I can actually make selections from here as well. Okay? So that is definitely helpful. You don't have to look at the map, write down the ones you like, and go back and check them later like you used to. Now, at this point, let's say I wanted to go back and modify my criteria. Okay? Well, I can hit the back button, but just be aware that if you do, a lot of times it will refresh your screen. Okay? Now, in just a little bit later, probably after lunch, I will show you all that if it does refresh your screen, it's okay. There's a very easy way to get it back. So I'll show you guys that later. But I would encourage you just to avoid the back button altogether and use these 3 buttons here to navigate your way back and forth, okay? So if I want to go modify my criteria, I'm going to actually just click criteria.
So revise search is criteria.
Yes, to revise my search, I'd hit criteria.
Thank you, because I was hitting the back button.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, map, I'd click map, and then results will take me to my results grid there, yeah. And again, if at this point I wanted to go modify the criteria or revise my search, as you guys said, I would just click criteria.
Is there a clear form like there is on Tempo?
There is.
That's cool.
On the criteria screen in the very bottom left-hand corner, let me scroll up a little bit. Next to the number of matches, it says clear. It has a little broom next to it.
Huh.
Okay, so criteria, map, results. We're going to come back to the map in just a moment. But results, after lunch, we will spend a lot of time on this results grid. There's a lot of customization that can be done here. Also, in the very bottom of the results grid, we have this long blue bar. This is called your button bar. We will spend a lot of time on this because a lot of the features that you guys are wondering about, like printing and emailing and setting up auto email and things like that, saving searches, a lot of those features are down here on the button bar. So we'll spend a lot of time on that after lunch. Okay, so let's go back to our map at this point. Now you do still have map tools. And I do see these 21 matches because we had put in our search criteria. The map will show you up to 5,000 matches, by the way. So it will show you a lot. But in this case, I only have 21. Now, this is all, by the way, on pages 21 through 23 in the manual. Map searching, pages 21 through 23. So we do have map tools. There are these little icons on the top of my map. What do I do if I don't know what an icon means? I hover my mouse over that icon. So we have draw radius, draw rectangle, draw polygon, okay? So you can still draw like we did in Tempo and Fusion. So if I click on my radius, well, I could draw, maybe I want a 1 mile radius around this point. Okay, now only one match now, okay? Because remember, whatever shapes you draw on your map will then be cross-referenced against the criteria, and that gives me my number of results, okay? So Tempo users in this room, you have been limited at this point to one shape per map, okay? Now you can have more than one shape on your map. So if I'm searching there and there, now I can search both those sections. Okay. And then the polygon in Tempo limited us to 8 points. The polygon in here is unlimited. So I can draw as strange of a shape as I need to.
That looks like a school boundary.
Yeah, it kind of does, huh? I can draw as strange of a shape as I need to, and it's not going to stop me because I'm not limited to the amount of points that I can plot. So now it says I have 10 matches within these 3 shapes here. Now, do you see how when I get my mouse right over the edge of a shape, I get that little gray dot? So I can click, hold, and drag and change that shape. I can resize that radius there. I can come and maybe I messed up here, so I need to fix this. Right? Not that any of you would ever mess up, but if you did, there's a way to fix it. Now, do you guys see these red dots? These red dots, if you click on them, it says delete shape, include shape, exclude shape. So by default, it's including the shape, right? Exclude the shape, this is new. So maybe sometimes it's not so much about where they want to live, but about where they don't want to live, right? We want to live in this area, but there's a specific area I don't want to live in. Well, I could put in the zip code or subdivision or whatever it is, and then go to my map and draw that specific area they don't want to live in and hit exclude this shape, right? This system will even let you draw a shape within a shape. So let's just say that there's a specific area in this shape that I didn't want to include. Right? So, and then I again still could resize it after the fact if I messed up.
Mom-in-law lives there and they don't want to be there.
I'm sorry?
The mom-in-law lives there and they don't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to be too close to their family. So just keep in mind, I mean, this may not be a feature that you need every day, but it is helpful to know that you have it, okay? So how do I delete these shapes? Well, you guys are good. So remember, you can click the red dot and hit delete, but somebody else did notice the little broom up here. What do you guys think that's going to do? Clear all shapes, right? So if I click that, that's going to sweep them all off, as you guys said. The next icon is layers. If you guys see, this is actually page 23 in the manual. If you guys see the layers icon, it kind of looks like blue stacked up sheets of paper, if you will. If you click on that, notice there's actually a couple sections to this. If you guys see on my screen up here, I have boundaries. Down here at the bottom, I have parcel characteristics, trends, and points of interest. Okay? So some of these we did have in Tempo and Fusion. Some are new, so I want to point out a few of them to you. Starting with zip code, we can see zip code boundary lines. City lines, county lines, school district lines. Yes, that is new.
That might change.
Okay? So the question I usually get about this at first, and then the next question is the one you guys are talking about. The first question I usually get is, why can't I click on this? So why can't I click on this? You guys tell me.
You haven't released it yet.
It might change. We don't know. I don't know.
You don't know it.
Do you see in red how it says, or it's red up here, but in red it says zoom in?
Ah.
So what do you think it's telling me to do?
Zoom in.
Zoom in so you can see it. So if I zoom in, then one more maybe, then I'll be able to click flood zones. This is really small because of the because I'm having to be hooked up to the projector. It is a little bit bigger. Yeah, the black section here doesn't take up the whole map when you're actually looking at it on your own computer. Yeah, it's just because of the display of me being hooked up there. But you can see, you guys get the idea here. You know,
Kind of scary for us to share.
yeah. So
Kind of responsibility.
the next question that I usually get is, well, is that up to date? Well, this is the most up-to-date FEMA map in existence, okay? Now, if they change it, if FEMA updates, it will be updated here. That's all we can really do is get the most up-to-date information, okay? So just be aware of it. You have it here. Check it out, you know, and know that it is the most up-to-date, and when and if they update, we'll see it reflected here. Okay, MLS area numbers, geo-market area. This is one that a lot of people haven't really paid that much attention to, but might start paying more attention to. These are auto-assigned, by the way, as well. So when you list a property, we assign it a geo-market area. And that's, you know, by design. You know, we don't want somebody saying that their listing is in the Heights when it's really in, you know, Champions area or something.
You know, on the, our websites that load, did the consumers, are they able to see the flood maps from?
They can't.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question was about on the client portals, what of this can your clients see? Nothing I've shown you so far can they actually see. There's only one thing they can show you, and I'll show it to you in just a second.
I think it'd be really interesting if they could see the FEMA flood maps.
Yeah, they can't see the FEMA flood maps. They can't see any of this stuff that I'm actually showing you. There's only one thing they can see. I'll show it to you in just a second. Okay, so a couple other things. So I showed you geo market area. Geo elementary, middle, and high. These are going to outline the school boundary lines. And then if you zoom in, it'll tell you what school it is. The MUDs is the same idea. We'll outline the MUD districts, and then if you're zoomed in enough, it'll show you what MUD district it is. And same thing with historic districts. Now down here at the bottom, parcel characteristics. Notice how they're all red. What do you think it needs me to do? Zoom in, right? So I'm going to zoom in, and this one you do have to pretty much get to a street view to see. So those of you following along, if you just want to look up to see this one. Parcel characteristics, we can see things like lot area. APN is just the tax ID number. Number of bedrooms and bathrooms. Building square feet. Owner names.
Per HCAT though.
And then the property address. And this is all being pulled from the tax records. Trends will show you things like median sell price. It'll make it it'll color code it, and then you'll see a legend telling you what the color indicates. Or foreclosure information, you can see that in there as well. Percentage of properties in foreclosure. Last one here, points of interest. So points of interest will show you things like schools, restaurants, shopping, public transportation, things like that. It'll actually pop up little icons on your map. Just let this load really quick. Yeah, so you'll see these little icons on your map, and you can click on them and see what they are. Now this is on the client portal. So earlier we had the question, what if this is on the client portal? They can see these points of interest. So that's pretty neat because they're getting the updates from me whenever something matches their criteria, and then they can go say, okay, where are the schools nearby? Where's the grocery store? You know, things like that.
Well, I was talking about the website that's like out there, you know, like.
Just the buyershard.com. prior.
Oh, does that one have, no, that one doesn't have any of that stuff either. Just the har.com website doesn't have that stuff either. Yeah. Okay, yes.
And you may have said this, forgive me.
Uh-huh.
Can you email that to a client?
There is a map view that we can email when we get to the print and emailing later. There is a map view, but this specifically, like if I wanted to pull up, the flood map and then email that or something like that, you would probably need to get like a screenshot or something of it to do it. Mm-hmm.
If you just wanted to find that out about a specific address, I guess.
Yeah, let me show you. I know where you're headed with that. Yeah, let me show you. So one thing before I show you what he just asked for, let's say, I had 21 matches, but now I'm lost. I don't know where they are. Do you guys know? I don't know. I'm sure you guys know, but I'm just kidding. Do you guys see that little scope icon there? That's a recenter button. So if you do ever get away from whatever it is, if you click that recenter, it just kind of brings you back to them, okay? And then, of course, I could zoom in again. Now, what you're asking about is maybe I want to see the flood zones for a specific address. Maybe it's not even on the market, right? I just want to see whatever it is, school boundary lines,
You may want to
etc.
check that one that's right near Cypresswood, that's in Prestonwood, since Prestonwood or that area had some flooding in Harvey.
Oh, well, no, I'm talking about what he's asking about, and that's jump to address. So I can type in any address, whether it's on the market or not on the market, and pull it up. So, for example, I'm just going to pull up HAR's address. I can just type it up here where it says jump to address, and it's going to pop up a little marker on the map. So I think this is what you were asking about. And so now if I wanted to see, any of this stuff, any of the things we just looked at, what geomarket area is this in? What schools are these zoned to? Whatever the case is, you can do that. I use this a lot when I teach the CMA classes. We've found our comps. Now I want to see where the subject property is in relation to the comps, right? Or maybe I want to start there and see where the subject property is in relation to the
Would
comps.
jump to be similar to like the archive?
No.
Does it just pull it on the map?
It's just pulling it up on the map. Yeah, it's not really doing anything. And then, of course, I can always click on it and delete it. Another idea behind this, maybe my client said they want a property with they're sick of the commute. They want to live within 5 miles of where they work, right? Well, I could pull up their work address and draw a 5-mile radius around their office, right? So a lot of things you can use that for, but just keep that in mind too. And then, of course, I can hit that scope to go back to my 21 matches. Okay. Now, are you guys about ready? Or are we not ready? If they're not here, we can keep going. I have more stuff that I can talk about. Yeah. Okay. So it's not quite 12, so I just wanted to see where we're at. Okay. So what I want to do now, I'm going to just hit the home button to just kind of refresh my screen because I want to show you 2 new ways to search in Matrix, okay? So we talked about criteria searching, we looked at the map searching and how to draw on there and things like that. But I want to show you 2 new ways to search in Matrix that we did not have in Tempo or Fusion, okay? The first of which is Speedbar Searching. Speedbar is on page 24 of the manual. Speed, like you're speeding down the highway. Speed bar. This on page 24 in the manual. And it's right here in the center of my screen. Again, it's kind of hidden in plain sight there, if you guys can see that search bar. But it's called your speed bar. Now, I want to teach this speed bar to you guys in kind of a crawl, walk, run format. I do this a lot when I teach social media classes because there are some things that are a little more difficult, like blogging. You can't just jump in and be an expert blogger. You kind of have to work your way up, right? So crawl, walk, run. You have to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. So I'm going to teach you guys the speed bar in the same format because there are some things that you can do, the crawl, things that you can do with the speed bar right now without any practice at all. Okay? And then there's some things that you may need to build up to. All right? So on the speed bar, the crawl, what you can do right now is I could type in any MLS number, a set of MLS numbers, whatever the case is, I could type them into that speed bar and it'll pull them right up. Okay? I can also type in a street number, street name, and it will pull that up, okay? So if I'm working the property desk and somebody calls about 123 Main Street, it doesn't matter what status 123 Main is in, it doesn't matter what property type 123 Main is. If I type in 123 Main to the speed bar, it's going to pull it up, okay? Now, here's where people mess up with the crawl. I say street number, street name, they hear address. So they'll type in 123 Main Street, Houston, Texas, 77027, and then they get an error because the system doesn't understand that, okay? In this case, on the speed bar, exactly, they put too much. In this case, less is more, okay? Street number, street name, very similar to how you search in the tax records, right? Street number, street name. So for example, let's say I'm looking for 4810 Laurel. 4810 Laurel is not on the market. Not on the market currently, but if I go search 4810 Laurel, I'm going to see the previous MLS listing for it. It's right down here. But notice it did find some other things that are similar, right? 4810 Laurel Dale, 4810 East Laurel Dale, and then 4810 Laurel in Bel Air, which is the one I'm wanting. I see it's sold. I can go see more information about it, okay? This will even do a partial, word search. So again, less is more here. Maybe somebody called about 109 Raven Knoll, and I don't know how to spell Raven Knoll, right? Well, if I just put in 109 Raven, it still found it. I see 2 previous MLS listings for 109 Raven Knoll, right? So it will even do a partial word search. It will even just do street. So if they don't know the street number, I can just search Raven Knoll. And I see everything on Raven Knoll. Okay, so that is the crawl. Street number, street name, or just the street name, and MLS numbers. Okay, you can do that right now without any practice. Now I want to show you the run, okay, and then I'm going to back up to show you the walk. The run is that I can go to the speed bar and I can actually type in search criteria and get results, okay? So if I'm looking for active single family listings in 77573 in the $300,000 to $400,000 price range with a minimum of 4 bedrooms and 3 full baths, I can type that information in and I have 95 matches. Now we see why it's called the speed bar, right? Because it got my results like that, okay? So obviously I had to learn how to do this, right? I had to learn these codes. I had to learn how to figure this out. So before I show you guys the walk, which will be very easy for you guys once you see it, do you guys see this question mark here? See the question mark on the speed bar? I'm going to click that question mark because this is your speed bar help, okay? So we have some tips here. It says keep it simple and case doesn't matter. So I typed it in all caps. I could have done lowercase, mixed case, it doesn't matter. Combine your shorthand codes in any order except for bedrooms and bathrooms. So I put address, active, single family, zip code, price, beds, baths, but I could have done price, beds, baths, active, single family, zip code. It doesn't matter, but if you're doing beds and baths, it needs to be bed first and then bath so it knows which is which. One last one here, put spaces between shorthand codes, not commas. So in other parts of Matrix, when I was searching for more than one bit of criteria, like zip code, right, I put comma. Well, now we don't see commas, we just see spaces, right? Now there are more examples down here. I already told you guys about MLS numbers. You can also do status. As you just saw, I searched ACT for active, but you could do any status. Property type, they have all the short codes here for every property type. RES is single family. We can do, like I showed you earlier, the crawl, street number, street name, or just street name. City, price, bedrooms and bathrooms in square feet. You can do a range, a minimum, or a maximum, just like we did earlier. But notice a couple small differences. On price, we now have a dollar sign. And on square feet, I have to type SQFT after it. Okay? So I would probably print this out if I were you guys. Just keep it on your desk. because you can learn it. But what I want to show you now is the walk, okay? And the reason I teach it to you like this is about a year ago we had one of the Matrix developers come down and do a train the trainer for about 20 of us, okay? And he came and he showed us the speed bar, and we were like, oh, this is so cool, I want to start using it. And then he left, and we were all like, wait, how do I use it again? And I specifically kept getting errors, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. So I want to show you how I figured it out. And basically what I did was I had Matrix teach me how to use it, okay? And this is how I did it. I would just come into Matrix and I would perform searches, okay? So in this case, I'll do another single family quick. So I'm just going to go do I'm going to perform a criteria search. Just like we did a criteria search earlier, I'm just going to put in a bit of criteria here. Okay, so I've got my criteria in there. Now, watch what happens to the speed bar when I go to view my results. It just filled it in for me, okay? So this is the walk. You're going to be running searches in Matrix anyway, right? You have to. So when you run those searches, just glance up at the speed bar, and you're essentially letting Matrix teach you how to use the speed bar, okay? Look up, and although I know it kind of looks like a foreign language right now, eventually these codes will make a little more sense. If you're curious, the mistake that I kept making and the reason I personally kept getting errors was that I kept forgetting the $ on price, okay? So just be aware of that. The more you see it in that speed bar, the more it will make sense to you, and then you'll be able to just come into Matrix and type it in the way I did and go, okay? So I'd encourage you guys to start just, again, run your searches, look up at the speed bar. But until you're ready to type that criteria in, don't forget you can use it for the MLS numbers, for street number, street name, or just street name, okay?
What about subdivision?
Subdivision is not in there. That I would just have to back up to my criteria to put in, yeah. Okay, one last one that I want to show you before we get to our lunch, and it's a quick one, don't worry, I won't keep you guys from food. So in the top right-hand corner, do you guys see where it says recent searches? This is one of my favorite things about Matrix, recent searches. So I can go over to recent searches, click on it, and I can rerun the very first search I ran this morning. There it is. I can go to recent searches, and if you see on mine, it says view all, 36. I can go see up to the last 50 searches that I've done in the past week, okay? So that's the time frame on this, 50 searches or 1 week, whichever you hit first. And I will tell you guys, I teach Matrix almost every single day, and it usually takes me more than a week to get to those 50 searches. So it's pretty much a week back that you'll see your recent searches there, okay? So I can go and rerun from last Friday. Look at this. I have a search in here from last Friday at 11:27 a.m. I can go and pull that back up. The reason that this is one of my favorite things about Matrix is because never again will you be running a search or working on something for a client and you get a call and it get pulled away, or your internet goes down, or your laptop dies, or whatever the case may be, and then you have to go and type in your criteria again. You don't have to do that anymore, right? You just go to your recent searches, pull it back up, and there you go. Again, also I mentioned earlier when you're running searches, a lot of people have that habit of hitting the back button and then it refreshes, right? It's unfortunate, but all you have to do is go to recent searches and pull it right back up. Okay, it's not gone forever. All right, so those were our 4 ways to search. We have criteria searching, map searching, speedbar searching, and then your recent searches. So we're going to take our 30-minute lunch. We ready? Yes? Did the food re-energize you guys? Yes? Okay. Yeah, no sleeping. Okay, so we will take one more 10-minute break, probably right around 1:30, okay? I misspoke earlier when I said 1. It's about 1:30. All right, so we're going to start back up. We're just going to pick up right where we left off. So we had looked at 4 ways to search in Matrix. We looked at criteria searching, we looked at map searching, we looked at Speedbar searching, and then we also looked at recent searches. Just to review, do you guys remember how long the recent, how far back does that recent searches go?
6 by 50.
50 searches or 1 week. Yes, 50 searches or 1 week. Yeah. It basically what it's going to do. The question was, will it delete them all? It will eventually. There we go. Basically, what it does is it just starts purging from the bottom up. So the oldest first, it'll just start purging this way. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay. So now that we've looked at 4 ways to search in Matrix, I want to start getting into what we do with the searches, what we do with the results after we've run the search. Just to kind of refresh ourselves a little bit, let's just do a quick little review of criteria searching so we can actually get some results pulled up. So I'm going to go back up to search, hover over search, go to single family, quick. And we're going to get ready to put in some search criteria. This is not Matrix going slow, by the way. I'm sorry. I have my hotspot by the window, but I still seem to only have 1 bar, so I'm sorry. Yeah.
Like the building, probably.
Maybe. Yeah.
Tech shields.
Come on. I'm about to start. Try and start again. Wow, it hasn't gone that slow all day. Let me try just relaunching it. Sorry about this. It was. That's okay. Oh, geez. Try again really quick. I'm sorry about that. Let's see how that works. Maybe it just needed that. All right, search single family, quick. Sorry about that. Search single family, quick. And let's put in some criteria. Maybe it'll go this time for us. Oh, geez. Maybe we don't need to do that. Okay. So we're looking at the quick search form. Let's go ahead and put in a little bit of criteria. Somebody give me maybe a different zip code than we've used before or a different geomarket area.
77375.
Thank you, 77375. And how many matches do I have? Can you guys see it? 463. Okay. So what price range or price point do we want for 77375? What was that? 2 to 250. So how do I put that in? 200-250, right? All right. So now I have 83 matches. What else do we need? I'm sorry? How many bedrooms? 3. Okay. So 3 and only 3, 3 and up, 3 to 4. So how do I put in 3 to 4? 3-4. Very good. We need a pool? Okay. So why not? So
How about that did not flood in Harvey?
So on the pool, we'll put yes, and let's see. 2 matches. Let's maybe take that off. Okay. What was that? 3-car garage. So garage. Yeah, that might be a lot. 2.
Let's take off, just make it active, only active.
Alrighty, so whatever we end up with, 47, that's a good number. For what I want to show you guys on the grid, that's a fine number, so we're just going to leave it at that. So those of you following along, I'm doing 77375. Price is $200,000 to $250,000, so I put 200-250. Beds, I put 3-4, and we're only searching the status active. Okay, and it says I have 47 matches. And again, if you're following along and you have a different number than I do, it's okay, we're just practicing at this point. Okay, so remember I have two ways I can view my 47 matches. I can view them on the map or the results grid. You have map and results up here at the top. You also have map and results down here at the bottom. Remember, it doesn't matter which one you click on, they both take you to the same map and the same results. So I'm going to go ahead and click on map at this point so that we can review what we have there on the map. Okay, so there's my matches on the map. Remember, you can hover your mouse over them to see the price, number of bedrooms and bathrooms. You can also click on them for more information. Remember, we have a photo, an address, a clickable MLS number. And remember, you can also make selections from here. That's a really great feature that we didn't have before. So if I wanted to base it off of what I'm seeing on the map, making my selections there, that's really helpful. And then lastly on the map, again, just a little review. Don't forget that you have your map tools, your drawing tools. So if at this point I wanted to draw a specific area or something like that, or if I wanted to see maybe layers, flood zones, school boundary lines, things like that, I can see all of that information there. Okay, so what button would I click if I wanted to go back to modify my criteria or revise my search? Criteria, right? I'd go back to criteria to modify that criteria. Map to view my map, and now we're going to move on over to results to see our results grid. There we go. Okay. So here is our results grid. Now, a terminology change here. We called this the results grid in Tempo, and we called it the results grid in Fusion. It's just important for you to note that it's not called the results grid in Matrix. You click results to get here, but it's actually called, this is called, the view I'm in, is called the agent single line display. The reason it's important for you to be aware of that, let's say maybe I wanted to print this grid, right? And I hit the print button, and I'm looking down the long list of available printable options. I'm not going to see grid anywhere. I'm not going to see results grid anywhere, but I will see the option to print the agent single line, right? So you kind of need to know that when they say agent single line, this is the view they're referring to. What we always called the results grid is called the agent single line, okay? Now it says I'm looking at 25 per page. I can increase that to 50 or 100 per page, okay? So I have 47 matches. If I wanted to see all 47, I could increase that to 50, and now I see all 47 there. This grid will show you up to 5,000 matches. A lot more than the 250 we had before. Okay, now on the left-hand side of the screen, we have icons. Icons are on page 27 in the manual. Page 27, icons. And again, just like the home screen, these icons aren't just here to look pretty. Some of them have some pretty important jobs as well. So starting with this one, we saw this on the map. This is a selection box, right? So I can click on there to select properties. Now, what if I wanted to select all of these properties? What would I click? If I click the one at the top, yeah, just kind of like you would in an Excel or something, or a different kind of grid, you would see that I can check the top and it's going to check everything I have in view. Now, it says I have 25 checked, but what if I wanted to check all 47? Yes, very good eye. So if you see, kind of hidden in plain sight here, it says all. So if I click all, now I have 47 checked. None is an easy way to unselect them all. And then page will check the current page you're viewing. Okay, so I just like to point that out because a lot of people don't notice that all sitting there and they just want to check all, but they can't. Or uncheck all, right? So you have all and none there, and then page will check the current page you're viewing. So the rest of these icons, remember, you can hover your mouse over them to find out what they do if you're not familiar with them or you don't recognize them. The first one is a little Polaroid picture there. If I hover my mouse over it, it says View Photos. The next one is View Map. The next icon, it's a black TX box. Does not, in this case, stand for Texas. TX does not stand for Texas here. It stands for Realist Tax. Okay, so if I click on that black TX box there, it will pull up the realist tax record for that particular property. And it usually pulls it up a lot quicker than this. I apologize for my slow internet. Here we go. There we go. So there's the realist tax record for that property. The blue, it looks like stacked up sheets of notebook paper there. And I hover my mouse over, it says 2 attachments. Another terminology change for Tempo users. These were called, yes, these were called docs in Tempo, okay? So if I'm looking for a seller's disclosure, survey, MUD, list of upgrades, whatever the case is, I need to look for this icon or for the word attachments somewhere because that's what they're called. Now, notice some of them do not have attachments. Right? That doesn't mean anything's missing in Matrix. That just means the listing agent hasn't uploaded any yet, okay? The little alarm clock here.
It could be a brand new a brand new home.
It could be. It could be a brand new home. The alarm clock here, if I hover my mouse over that, it says Property Archive Report. PAR report, some people called it, but that's the report that gives you the detailed history of any time that property has been listed in the MLS, okay? So it's great because we have access to these without even having to go into the full report. I can click on one of these icons to see that information for these properties. Now, to get to the agent full report, I would click on the MLS number just like we did before, okay? So if I click on that MLS number, it'll take me right into View the Agent Full Report. Before I do that, I just want to review the rest of what you have in this agent single line display. These fields have not changed from what we had in Tempo and Fusion, okay? We still see, you know, address, subdivision, lot size, square feet, price. One thing that has changed for Tempo users specifically is on price. We used to have an asterisk on the price if there had been a price change. Now you'll actually just see an arrow pointing up or down indicating a price increase or decrease, okay? You still have price per square foot, year built, bedrooms, bathrooms, and then we have DOM. Notice that DOM does still have the asterisk there. What does that mean when we have an asterisk on DOM? It's been relisted at least once, right? It was expired or terminated and it is now back on the market. So it's expired or terminated at least once. So this one, for example, it could say, you know, DOM 59, but when I go and look at my property archive report, it could be the CDOM, cumulative days on market, is actually 359, right? So we'll take a look at one of those in just a little bit, but I just want you to be aware that you won't see the asterisk on price anymore. You'll just see an arrow, but you do still see the asterisk on DOM. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on the MLS number for property number 1. By the way, I didn't point it out, but look that it did fill in my speed bar here. Okay. So now I am looking at the agent full report for property number 1. It's still loading here. That's why my picture's not up. Over here again, notice it says on the display agent full with tabs. If you're wondering what do they mean by tabs, these are the tabs here. So right now I'm looking at the listing. I can go over to this tab, Property Archive, and view the Property Archive report. Still trying to load here. So there's my Property Archive report. Again, that gives you the detailed history of any time that property's been listed. Then I can go over to the tab that says Photos and see the photos. And I can also go over to the tab that says Attachments and see any attachments that they've uploaded. So in this one I see the IABS, Seller's Disclosure Survey, Civic Club information, MUD information, things like that. And then I can go back to the listing to see the listing view that we had before. Okay, you can view the photos a couple different ways. I can scroll through thumbnails like this. I could also, if you see this icon down here, larger view, when I hover my mouse over it, it says larger view. If I click that, It will give you a larger view and you can scroll through them. It does include captions at the bottom if the listing agent has included any captions there. All right, so for the most part, this form has not changed too much from what we had before, but I do want to point out a couple small, little subtle changes. For example, one, do you see up here where it says list price? Do you see right underneath that where it says original price? That's new. Okay. Also, they did, one more thing. Here I do see my DOM. They do actually plan to put a little slash here and also put CDOM. So that will be helpful. But I used to go to my property archive report over here. Where is it now? Where do I find my property archive report? Yes, remember we have these tabs now. So if I go there, I'll see the detailed history of these 24 days or anytime it's been listed previous to that, right? Okay, underneath the photos, they did move driving directions up, so now they're easier for you to see. They're right here. Also underneath driving directions, if there have been any recent changes to the property, recent being within the last 2 weeks, so price changes, status changes, new listing, whatever the case is, you'll actually see the details of those recent changes right under there. And also if they have an open house scheduled, you'll see the open house schedule underneath there as well. So you'll see all of that right here. We might see an example that has it. So scrolling down the rest of this form, nothing has really changed except for one thing. We've always had this information and rooms information, but they did give you guys this new section called rooms information. And the way it's laid out here, it's a little bit easier to read the details of the rooms. So for example, I might see something like room, dining room. Here are the dimensions, location, downstairs, features, formal, right? So the way it's laid out here, it's a little bit easier to read. You'll notice with the new add edit, when that is available to you all, you'll notice that it will not stop you from adding rooms. You can add as many rooms as you want. There's no limit on them anymore. And then of course the features and things like that, if there's multiple features, you can add all of that stuff. So those higher end homes that have a ton of rooms and all the features, you won't have a limit to that anymore like you did before. Yeah. All right, so let me scroll back up to the top here. So above my photos, it might be hard for you guys to see, but I do still have a selection box, okay? So I can make a selection from this view. If I want to share this, if I like this one, I want to share it with my buyer, or if I was looking for comps and this is a good comp, I can actually select it from this view. And then we have previous next above that. So I could hit next and then check out property number 2 and just kind of go through the same process. Okay. On property number 2, this one has had a price change. It's not recent though, because under here under directions it doesn't say recent change, but there has been a change. It was originally listed at 210, now it's 200. You guys see that? So it's just helpful that we see that there now. Okay, so I could kind of go through the same process. Maybe I like this one, I want to go to property number 3. So you can kind of see that this is one way that you could just view these pretty quickly by hitting the previous next and looking at whatever it is you're looking for. This one does have a recent change. If you see there, this was recently listed on October 17th. Okay, so again, any recent changes will be something that's happened in the last 2 weeks. Can you guys see that? Sorry. Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to go through and select a couple of these. Oh, here's another one. Recent change is a new listing as of October 16th, and they have an open house scheduled for Sunday. Okay, so at this point, I'm not going to go through all of them, obviously, but at this point, let's just say that I've gone through them all, and now I want to get back to the grid. I've made my selections, and I want to get back to that grid that we were looking at earlier. Well, remember that it's not called the grid, okay? It's called the agent single line display. And again, that's important for you to know, because if you see right here in the center of my screen, do you see how it says agent single line display? So if I click that button, it's going to take me right back to that grid, and then any of the properties that I selected, it will keep them selected. I promise it's not Matrix going slow, it's my internet going slow. I'm sorry. I might try something else here in a second. Okay, there we go. So now I'm back on my agent single line display, and I have those properties selected. So if you missed that, when you're ever in the agent full report view, you will see agent single line display in the center of your screen. You can click that to get back to that single line display view.
But how do you pull up those four? I didn't see where those. So you wanna, after you see the four, check four, can you, how do you pull out those four, collective and ignore the rest of them?
So I'm going to get to those in a second. So he was asking, how do I basically narrow? How do I get rid of the ones that I don't have checked? We'll get to those in a little bit, but they're down here on refine in that section there. So I'll get to those in just a bit. Yeah. Okay. Now we don't have time to get through it in today's class. I want you to know it's a possibility. Eventually, after this year, after everybody's on Matrix, we no longer have tempo. We are going to kind of restructure our Matrix classes a little bit. We're going to have kind of like an intro class, but we'll also have like a Matrix customization class that we're going to create. And in that class, it is going to be more of the customization, advanced features within Matrix. But I do want to show you some of it now because some of you may be able to just grab that manual and do it yourself and not really need to take the class. So I want to show you what's here, but I don't want to overwhelm you. So on pages 28 and 29 of that manual, it does talk about adjusting the results grid, okay? So if you see when I get my mouse to the top of one of these columns, do you guys see that little crosshairs icon, the 4 arrows there? I can actually click, hold, and drag, and I can reorganize these columns on my screen, okay? I could click on a column, and then I also have the option to remove or insert columns. So let's just say I don't need office code, that's kind of in my way. I could just hit remove column and now it's gone, right? Or maybe I want to add a column, right? So I can add, if you notice again, when I click on a column, we have remove column, insert column. Well, in this case, I want to insert a column. You'll see that when I go to insert a column, the same list that we had, if you remember how we added fields to our search form, you can add those same list of columns to your single line display here. It's not coming up for me.
So you can't, it's only from the select box, not, you can't make your own.
Subdivision doesn't come.
For some reason, it's not letting me do this. Subdivision's already on here.
It was just covered up.
I'm just trying to insert a, there we go, here we go. So when you hit insert column, you'll get this long list of available options. Again, it's the same list that we saw before when I added to my search form, okay? So again, earlier we added front door faces, but maybe I want to add schools. Maybe I want to add CDOM, right? I have DOM. Maybe I want to add CDOM.
I like that one.
Well, I could go find CDOM, not census tract, CDOM, hit apply, and it's going to add, exactly, it's going to add CDOM. Whenever my internet catches up here, it'll add CDOM.
Yeah. That's awesome. I add that myself, and it's very time consuming. It's a lot of work to add that.
It usually adds it quite
Well, I
like
mean,
right
I
away.
add it
It's just
myself
not,
by
yeah,
hand, and it's like a lot of work.
yeah. No, I'm just saying that
No,
right
no,
now,
this,
I don't know what's
that
going
is
on.
awesome.
Yeah, so.
Change it for all of your searches or just this search?
So yes, exactly. He saw the gear. Yeah. So if I click that gear, I can set the current display, sort, order, and count per page as my starting default. There we go. It finally added it. So there's my CDOM. So now, like someone else said, I could take my CDOM and scroll it down here, and now I see my DOM, CDOM right next to each other, right? I could add the Harvey field. I could add, anything like that. So.
If you're doing a CMA for someone, you want to tell them the true days on market,
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Not really, things are not selling like you think they're selling. Somebody else took it off, put it back on, and
Yes. So I mean, the possibilities, as you can probably guess, the possibilities are endless here, right? I mean, the amount of things I could add or remove to this column.
Right.
So just keep this in mind.
Yeah.
Again, you see that it's a possibility. You see that you can do it. It's on pages 28 and 29. So if this is something you want to do,
Yes.
I would encourage you all to use the manual to kind of, and you've seen me do it now, but use the manual to walk you through it. And then again, we have that display. So if I want my single line display to always have these fields, well, I could go to my little gear and hit that button. But then again, maybe I messed up. Maybe I changed my mind. I can always, the other option is to reset to the system search default. So if I hit that button, it will just revert back to the system defaults. Yeah, you can always undo.
And obviously you don't, and like in a CMA, you don't really care about the MLS number and the subdivision name, because most likely your subdivision name is, unless you're doing a really custom.
Yeah.
You're gonna,
Okay.
you're gonna show us how you, those four.
I promise I'm going to show you. We're just not there yet. There's a method to my madness and a method to the order in which I'm showing you guys this stuff. Okay, so we are actually going to spend a majority of the rest of our time together down here on this button bar. This button bar, it has 4 sections to it: actions, refine, save, and cart. So we're actually going to start with the actions. Now, this is in the handout. The button bar is pages 30 through 48. So it's a really big section of the handout, but that's helpful to you because everything we're about to cover is in the handout. Okay? Every section of this that we're going to cover is in the handout. Now, notice right now, I don't have anything selected, and notice that I only have 2 options down here on my button bar. Right now, I can only hit criteria and stats. Okay? And it will tell you, if I try to click print, for example, it says you must check at least 1 item. So once I check at least 1 item, notice that my button bar lights up, right? So just be aware, if you don't have anything selected, you can't use most of those tools down there. So I'm going to go ahead and select a couple of these and look through our options here. So starting with email, okay? So if I hit email at this point, it's going to let me either add in a new contact or pull a name from my list of contacts. So see there we have create new contact, or I can start typing in a contact that's already saved in the system. I could also click to and look through my list of contacts. So you have a few different options there. Okay. Now you can CC as many people as you want on this email. BCC me a copy of this message. If you check that box, it'll be defaulted to always be checked. If you uncheck it, it'll be defaulted to always be unchecked. So whatever you prefer, you can do there. Then I have a subject line and email body, so I could just say something like properties that match your criteria. And okay. And then my email signature is in there ready to go. If you guys remember, we looked at that in my Matrix, my information. So because I already created it, it's right there ready to go. And now I can hit preview or send. Okay? So I was waiting to see if anybody did it, but it's usually at this point in the class that somebody stops me and says, whoa, 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 you didn't select what reports you were going to send. And you're right, I didn't. I didn't have to. Okay? You no longer have to is basically the answer to that. Instead of hitting send really quick, I'm going to hit preview, just so you can see what it's actually going to send them is a link to view those 4 listings that I'm attempting to email to him in what looks very much like the client portal. Okay, so they're going to see, once this opens, they're going to see, let's try one more time. They are going to see all of the information that you would typically see in a client full report with full photos and a map. Yeah. Yeah. It was called buyer full in Tempo. It's called client full in Matrix. But yes. So emailing, it's, you know, there have been some members who are like, but I like to email certain reports. And you can, if you're just used to doing that, you can do that still. To the right of email, you have print/email PDF. So if I really want to email just a specific report, I can still do that. I do still have that option. And again, I mentioned it before, but the buyer reports are now called client reports. It's the same report, just a new name, okay? My Agent 1 page is right there, so if I want to print the Agent 1 page, there we go. If I want to print the client full report, there it is. Now there are a few other options. There's a printable map right there. Some people are asking about printing the map earlier. There's a printable map. Now, another terminology change or a change to a name of a report. In Tempo, we had what was called the buyer CMA. A lot of people like to email the buyer CMA. That is now called the quick CMA, okay? So I can still email that report from here as well, okay? There are a few other updates. The 3-up comparison we had in Tempo, this one looks a lot nicer than the one we had before. And now they also have customer flyers in here. So there's some new things, but they did keep some, not all, of the reports that we had before, okay? So just be aware of that. Now, when I print one of these, let's say I'm printing a client full report, for example, if you see over here, I have the opportunity to include my agent header and footer. You guys remember we looked at that at the beginning of class. So you have, different options. And also, here is the other option. Somebody asked earlier about, I want them to see what criteria I used. Well, print search criteria is an option there. So you don't really need to print the criteria screen. You can just put that there and it will include that criteria. All right, I'm going to back to my results now. And actually at the bottom of my results, it does have that criteria right here too. So this is essentially what it would be printing, if you guys can see that, along with it. Okay, so we've looked at email and print/email PDF. Now we have CMA. So let's just pretend for a moment we were looking for comps. I've got my 4 comps. Now I want to start the CMA process. So I click that CMA button. It opens up the CMA wizard, which walks me through the process of creating the CMA report, okay? Very similar, it's very similar to what we did in Tempo and Fusion, but it is a little bit different, okay? Again, any change is a change. So, like I said, we had that 3-hour class. We also have that video that I told you guys in the video tutorials. It's only about 40 minutes long or so, and I go through in that one, I go through this CMA right here. I talk again about the quick CMA, again formerly known as the buyer CMA, and I go through cloud CMA in that one, which we'll talk about in just a second, okay? So I would encourage you guys to either watch that video or take a class if you want to more information about these reports. Directions, if I go to directions, I'm going to be able to email or print customizable driving directions. Now, a big change here for Tempo users, it no longer orders these based on price. It orders them based on the best route, okay? So,
How smart is that?
yeah, so you could use this, pull this up and then set your appointment times, okay? Or if maybe I already set my appointment times and you know what, we had to go to Cove Timbers first, that was our only option, well, I could just move Cove Timbers up, right? So I can reorganize these if this is not the order that I'm going to be showing them, okay? You can either hit these arrows to go in up and down, or if you click, hold, and drag, you can reorder them too.
Does it reorganize your path that way?
It does. So now when I hit, and by the way, one more thing, I can add start and stop right here, and then when I hit directions, like you asked, it will give me a new order here.
I know.
It's just taking a second. All right, so it gave me a new route with, down here we have our turn-by-turn directions that I can email or print. Now I did email these to myself. I pulled them up on my mobile device because that's how your clients are going to look at them. If they actually use these directions and you email them, they're probably going to be looking on their mobile device. And it looked really nice. It had your custom header at the top, and then it puts these turn-by-turn directions in there, and it's formatted to perfectly fit in that cell phone screen. So it looks really nice. So it takes hardly any time for you guys to do. I would encourage you to do it. Because even if there's somebody who uses GPS, you're giving them already the route. It's just easy.
See, it's
Okay.
a cell phone screen, so if I'm at my desk and doing it, then
then it'll fit that, but it'll also look perfect on a mobile device as well. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to hit back to results.
This is a great session you got going.
Thank you. Okay, so stats is the same statistics report you have in Tempo and Fusion. So if you're looking for, maybe if these are solds and I'm looking for sell to list price ratios, things like that, you'll see them there. Export would be to export this onto an Excel spreadsheet. Quick CMA, we talked about it already a little bit. It was called the buyer CMA in Tempo. The only difference really between what you had before and what we have now is that now it will have your custom header at the top. So it's the same report, it just has that custom header. Cloud CMA. Now Cloud CMA is the only thing within Matrix that's different if you're a Platinum subscriber versus a standard subscriber. Cloud CMA is available for MLS Platinum subscribers. The big difference between the CMA over here and Cloud CMA is that Cloud CMA does allow for a lot more customization than the standard CMA. The standard CMA, everybody's going to have the same color scheme and header and footer and all of those things. With Cloud CMA, you can customize that a bit more. If you are a Platinum subscriber, I would encourage you to try Cloud CMA. It looks really nice. There's a lot of things you can do with it. If you're not a Platinum subscriber, I would encourage you to either watch that video I told you guys about or take a class so you can at least see what it looks like and see if that interests you, okay? The last one on actions is text listings. So I have these 4 listings selected. If I click text listings, it will have me input somebody's phone number, and it's going to send them a text message with a link to view those 4 listings. It's just taking a second to come up. There it is. So I would put in the phone number, and this is the text it would send. Okay. All right, so those are all actions. Okay. Now I'm going to move on over to refine. So on refine, the 2 I want to focus on today are narrow and discard. Okay? Narrow would mean I have these 4 listings selected and I want to get rid of the rest, right? Discard is the exact opposite. I have these 4 selected because I want to throw them out, okay? So you have both options there. Now, let's say I click narrow, and then I decide, you know what? I didn't actually mean to narrow that. Well, it's okay. There is a way to get them back, okay? If you guys see right up here in the top left-hand corner, see where it says narrowed original results, and to the left of that says original results? They're leaving you a little trail of breadcrumbs to get it back. So if I click original results, now it's going to give me all of my 47 results back. There they are. Okay? The other option was discard. So remember, this means I have these 4 selected because I want to throw them out. So if I hit discard, it will discard those properties, and now I'm only left with 43 listings. There is an undiscard button. So if you discard them by accident, you can always click undiscard, and it will bring all of your matches back. Yes, it's realtor proof, she said. I like that. Yes. Okay, so we've looked at actions and refined. I'm going to skip save for just a moment. Again, I promise there's a method to my madness. And we're going to skip over to carts. I will come back to save in just a bit. So on carts, if you remember carts from the beginning of class, I said they were a folder or placeholder for properties, kind of like an organizational tool for me to just set properties aside for whatever reason. My client doesn't get notified that I've added something to their cart. It's simply for my own organizational purposes, okay? So let's say, and the example I used at the beginning of class was client A, client B, if you guys remember that, right? So let's just pretend, you know, I'm working on something for client A. These 4 properties client B might be interested in, but I don't want to stop my work yet for client A, right? So I can come down here to carts, find client B, then hit add to cart. Do you guys see add to cart? So when I hit add to cart, his 0 is going to change to a 4. There we go. So now I have those 4 properties in his cart. So now I could just continue my work for client A, do whatever it is I'm doing. And then once I'm ready, I can either hit view down here, or even if it's, you know, another session altogether, I completely left Matrix and came back, I'm still going to have those properties in his cart. Okay? So I could go pull up his cart, select those properties, and now I can perform any one of the actions we see here, the ones we just went over, to those properties. So if I had set them aside because I needed to send him driving directions, if I had set them aside because, you know, I want to text them to him or email them or whatever the case is, I can do that, okay? Now,
the cart's created at this point, so if that customer or that client is not in there, then you just go to add cart and create.
yeah, one of the options when you go to the carts, you can hit new contact as well. Yes, great question. So, you know, if they're not already in there, I can create a new one from right there. Yeah.
And how did you delete the cart?
How do you empty the carts? Yeah, so these properties will stay in here. It doesn't matter if there's been status changes, price changes, etc. They'll stay in here until you come into the cart, click on carts, and then hit remove checked. Okay? So they will stay in there until you physically remove them. Okay? Just to reiterate that, I want to show you guys something. I've had these properties in his cart. Uh-oh, where'd he go? There he goes. These properties in his cart for a long time. So long, in fact, that 2 are sold, 3 are expired, and 1's terminated. But again, it doesn't matter. Status changes, price changes, they will stay in that cart. So whatever organizational reason you want to put them in the cart, go for it. I've had some members say, you know what I'm going to do? Every property I show them, I'm going to put it in a cart so I just remember, right? Or everything I email them, I'm going to put it in there, because it even tells you right here when you emailed it to them. Okay?
It's also not bad to remember when you're doing your mileage.
When you're doing your mileage, yeah, that might be a good one. You know, I've even had some people say, hey, you know, I'm going to be honest, I don't win every listing, right? Maybe the ones I don't win, just so I can keep an eye on those properties, I'll put them in a cart, put them in my own cart, right? So I can keep an eye on them and see if they sell.
If they get terminated or expired,
If they-
put it on them again.
Exactly. So there's a lot of different ways you could use them. You may never use them, right? You may never use them, but they're just intended to be an organizational tool within Matrix that you might find helpful. Okay. All right. Any questions on anything we've covered? So we are getting ready to take our last break. When you guys come back, we're going to get into saving searches and setting up auto email. I have a few other things to show you, and then we will wrap up. Okay, so let's take our last 10-minute break. We're going to start back up. Sorry about the beeping. I forgot to turn it down. Okay, so again, we're going to pick up right where we left off. Before our break, we had added some properties to a cart. And when I did, I completely got out of that search that we were in. Okay, but it's okay, because remember, we can go to recent searches and pull it back up, right? So if I just come up here to recent searches, I'll get my little recent searches drop down, and I'll be able to pull it back up. Okay. So on our button bar, we talked about, this is just taking a little while to load. Sorry about that. Okay, so we talked about actions, refine, and we talked about cart. So now we're going to backtrack to save, okay? Just let this load here. Okay, so again, we talked about, it's just taking a while to load for me.
Discard.
It's the building.
I put my laptop up.
Go back down, let's see that.
There we go. All right, actions, refine, and carts, we talked about those. Now we're going to backtrack to save. So on save, the two I want to focus on today are new saved search and new auto email, okay? So on new saved search, this was, am I good? Okay, sorry. This was, remember there's a terminology change here. New saved search, these were called custom searches in Tempo, right? So you would click that button that said new custom search. Same idea. When you save this search, remember you're saving the criteria of the search, not the results. So I would be saving, 200 to 250 and 77375, 3 to 4 beds, right? I wouldn't be saving these 47 matches, okay? So I'm going to hit new saved search. Now anything in yellow is required. So on this one where the search name is yellow, I do need to put in a search name. So I could name it something like 77375, 200 to 250. I mean, you can name it really anything you want. I like to name it after the criteria. Now we have some other options here. I can select a contact or create a contact. It's not yellow, so it's not required. But the idea behind this is, if you ever looked at your long list of searches, those of you that have a long list of searches like I do, and you're looking at one of your searches and you're saying, I don't remember ever saving that search, much less who it was for. That's the idea behind this contact section, because remember, they're not going to get notified of anything. They're not going to get an email, nothing like that. All this is doing is, for my own organizational purposes, when I go back to look at my searches, I'm going to say, oh, that's the one I created for so-and-so. I don't need it anymore, right? Or whatever the case is. So I'm not going to select a search to associate, or a contact to associate this search with. I'm going to leave that blank, but that is the idea behind that. Now, the other option is to enable as a favorite search on your Home tab. If you remember, on the home screen, we had a widget called My Favorite Searches. And you can have up to 10 favorite searches on this home screen. And again, the idea behind this is I've saved this search. Maybe it's for an active buyer. Maybe it's just a search I run frequently for, just because I want to stay updated. Whatever the case is, I can make it a favorite so I have quick access to it here on my home screen. Okay, so that's the idea behind that. So I'm not going to make it a favorite. I'm not going to associate a contact with it. I'm just going to name it and then hit the blue save button at the bottom. And that's all you really have to do. You guys ready for a little pop quiz? Okay, so that's my question. So she must be a former teacher. So on recent searches, how far back did we say that goes? 50 searches or 1 week, okay? Okay, so we all know that if I were to go to it right now, I can find it. But let's just pretend it's been 2 weeks since I saved it, right? Where do I go to find the saved search? I didn't make it a favorite search.
No.
Remember, I didn't check that. On that home screen, I'm not going to find it there because I didn't make it a favorite. So, so where do I find it?
Recent searches?
It's been 2 weeks.
Oh, crap.
My Matrix saved searches. So in the beginning of class, good job, guys. So in the beginning of class, we looked at the saved searches. I told you guys, again, they used to be called custom searches, but your Tempo and Fusion searches have already been migrated into Matrix for you. You see imported next to the ones that came in from there. Any that don't have imported next to them, those I've created since I started using Matrix. So there's the search we just did, saved right there. I can click on it. Yeah, I can click on it, change the settings, change the criteria, hit results to see the most current results. I can also delete it from here. Okay? So My Matrix saved searches, that's where you find your searches after you've saved them. Okay. So I'm going to go back into my search now.
create a report that when you click on it, it'll leave like subdivision blank and you can just input that name? Like one single report that you could just search and put Longwood, search and put Prestonwood? Because I've got some set up like that now that are just real quick.
You can. Yeah, I mean, you
I
can.
mean, what I'm saying, I know you can do like neighborhood or you know, the parameters of the search. But what if you did neighborhood and left it blank rather than putting a name in there?
I mean, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you can.
As long as you stick to the parameters of the.
Yeah, I mean,
criteria.
you really can put any search criteria in there. Whatever's going to benefit you, you can save it and put it in there. There's no real requirement on that.
Okay.
It's loading. We just have to be patient. Okay, it's not the same search, is it? But that's okay. All right, so we looked at actions, refine, carts. We looked at save and looked at this new save search. Now we're going to look at new auto email, okay? Now, remember, this used to be called something else in Tempo. What was this called? Do you guys remember? Client gateway, right? Client gateway. So this is why I say if you're looking for the words client gateway in Matrix, you're not going to find it because it's now called auto email. So once we click this new auto email button, it will walk me through the process of setting it up. It's not difficult to do. It's all in the handout, by the way, as well, pages 49 through 54. What I've found that's the most difficult part for members that are going to set up the auto email is knowing where to go to do it. So just to review, what was that? Sorry. Just to review what we did, we went up to search, ran our search, put in our criteria, right? Then we hit the results button, got here, and then now down here on our button bar, we went to save, and now we're going to hit new auto email. So just to review how we got here, because honestly, for most people, that is the most difficult part, is knowing how to get there. Okay, so when I set up a new auto email, again, anything in yellow is required. So now it's requiring me to put in a contact because it needs to know who to send this to, right? So if I select a contact from here, I could also create a new contact as well. So again, if they're not already saved in Matrix, I can create a new contact from right here. I can carbon copy as many people as I want on this. BCC me a copy of all emails. I would encourage you to do this. That way you get notified when they get notified of any new properties that match their criteria. And then lastly, subject, okay? So this is also required because it needs to know what subject line to put in there when it emails your client. Make it something recognizable that's going to catch their attention in their inbox because this is exactly what they'll see every time, okay? So I could just say properties in 77, what was it, 375?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have welcome email and recurring email. The welcome email, you can read through it on your own time, but this is what it looks like. It basically explains to them, you know, what the portal is, that they can see listings, photos, maps, and more, and just kind of explaining to them what the portal does. Now, it's great, but what if I want to personalize it a little more? Maybe it doesn't sound like me. I just want to, you know, change it. Well, I can click within this box here and make any changes I want to it. And then, do you guys see that gear again? Remember that gear means there's customization that can be done. So if I click that gear, I can then hit set current message as my default welcome email. Okay? Same thing with recurring. This is what they'll get whenever there's new or updated listings that match their criteria. I could modify this and then also set current message as my default recurring email. Okay? So it's one of those, you just set it up once and then it'll be good to go from there on. My email signature, again, it's in there ready to go. The criteria is also in there ready to go. We used to have to type this in manually, but we no longer need to. And then we see settings and schedule. Okay? So on settings, if you remember concierge was what allows me to filter the properties for my client, right? So instead of them getting every property that matches their criteria, I'll get notified and I can decide what I want them to receive or not receive. So watch what happens to schedule when I enable concierge mode. It just went away. Why? Because if I've enabled concierge mode, I'm saying I don't want my client to get it ASAP or daily or what have you. I'm saying send it to me and I will then approve what they receive. Okay? So just keep that in mind. If you do enable concierge mode, I would encourage you to also check this box that says for it to email notify you of changes. Otherwise, you'll only see them when you log into Matrix, and that's not going to be good enough, right? So just remember that they will not get notified until you approve those emails of any changes. The other option is, again, to enable as a favorite search on your home tab. So if this is an active buyer, I want quick access to the most current results. When I log into Matrix, I can just click that button. So if I select that there, that'll be on the home screen. And then we have schedule. So on schedule, ASAP means ASAP. The system updates every 15 minutes. They could get multiple emails in a day if there's multiple changes that match their criteria. Okay? Now, if it's an ASAP client, I would recommend setting them up on ASAP. If this is a client that's going to be upset because they went on HER.com and found something that matched their criteria and you haven't sent it to them yet because it went on the market an hour ago and you have them set up on daily, set them up on ASAP, okay? Now, you do have other options because not every client is an ASAP client. Maybe they're just casually looking. Maybe, they're, I don't know. But you have other options. Daily, you could do at most once daily, at most twice daily. You could uncheck every one of these except for Monday mornings, and they just get one Monday morning notification a week, right? So however serious or casual a buyer they are, you can suit their needs with the notification in here. The last option is monthly, so they get one email a month. That's your super, super casual buyers, right? The ones that are thinking about buying in 3 years, you can set them up on monthly if you want. We're just looking. Looky-loos, right?
On the daily emails.
It should say, might as well get rid of this one.
Yeah.
Print.
What was that question?
On the daily emails where it says all AM or all PM, can you schedule the time so they not get an email at 5 AM in the morning?
You can't schedule a time. So the AM will still go out at about 5 AM. The PM goes out at about 6 PM. Yeah. Okay.
I have a question. There was
Sure.
also a possibility to schedule for how many days? Is it the year?
So that's a good question. Before, we had to put a certain amount of days. This will expire after 180 days, or this will expire after 90 days, or whatever the case says. This will not expire, okay? So this will keep sending until you go and deactivate it, which we're going to get to next, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and hit the blue save button. And that is all we have to do. So once you've set that new auto email button, again, it just walks you through those steps. This was all in the handout, pages 49 through 54. So just keep that in mind. Again, the hardest part is finding it. And so it's right down here in your button bar, save, new auto email. You guys ready for the next pop quiz? Your CE is not dependent on it. So now that I've set up that auto email for the contact, where do I go to manage it? My Matrix, yes. I can go down to auto emails, but remember I said contacts, don't just think of this as where you add and delete contacts. Think of it as your contact management for Matrix, right? Anything you do for a contact, you can manage it here. And this is why I say instead of going down to auto emails, come here because, again, if it was a CMA, I'd come here. If it was a saved search, I'd come here. And for this case, it's an auto email, I will come here, okay? Forgot for a second who I set it up for. All right, so when you click on a contact, remember you're going to see everything you've set up for them. And I do have another one, so I'm just going to delete that so I don't confuse you guys. Okay, so here's the auto email I just set up for him. When I click on it, I'm going to see a lot of options. I do want to go through just a couple of these with you. Let's say, you know, he's getting these updates, and I see he's on his client portal, he's discarding them all. He's rejecting them all, right? So I pick up the phone and I call him and I say, you know, you don't seem to like any of the properties. You know, is there something I could change? Well, you know, they're all great, but we really wanted a one-story home, right? And they didn't tell me that criteria. So I could just go to criteria. You're going to see the exact same criteria screen that we saw earlier. You'll be able to modify the criteria and just hit the save button, okay? There we go. So I could come in and change it to 1 stories and then hit save, right? Okay. So another option, settings. I set him up, what did I set him up on? I set him up on daily. And then I realized that he's wanting more than daily. He wants ASAP, right? So I can go into settings and I could go change, and again, it's the same screen we just saw. I could change his daily to ASAP and hit save, right? Everything is the same on here except for one thing. Now under settings, we see enabled, disabled, okay? So maybe he goes under contract, and I want to temporarily disable this because I don't want him getting more updates, right, when we're under contract. So I can go and disable it and hit save. That way, if the contract falls through, it's not like I've deleted it, right? It's still here. I just go and re-enable it and hit save, okay? So just keep that in mind. You know, instead of deleting and starting again, you can just disable it temporarily, okay? Okay, a couple other options that we had there. To delete the auto email, I could delete it right here. So if I want him to stop getting it, right? We're done, he's closed on a home, delete, okay? Remember, if you delete the whole contact, it will delete everything you have saved for that contact. And then resend welcome, it will send the welcome email pretty much immediately, but if for some reason they don't receive it or anything like that, you can resend it to them. Now, there were problems before with the client gateway. It would get sometimes hung up in people's junk or spam folder. You shouldn't encounter that issue anymore, okay? So just be aware of that. But if for some reason they didn't get their welcome email, you can always resend it. So I'm going to hit open in portal so I can go ahead and show you guys the client portal. There we go. So again, there's my custom header. So this is why I said it's important to get that custom header set up, because they will see it on the client portal every time they get updates.
I didn't quite understand. How do you get your picture?
So that we did in the My Matrix, My Information section. There was a section called Header and Footer. Right there. Yeah, so you just need to go in and set it up. So this is where I set it up. Okay. So there's the listings that I found for him. Remember, he does have a map here. He can click on a property and see the price, bedrooms, and bathrooms. When he actually clicks on it, though, when he hovers, he sees the price, bedrooms, and bathrooms. When he clicks on it, notice what it did over here on the right-hand side. If you were to say, what's this one down here? Watch the right-hand side. It just toggles right to it for him. Okay. He also has map tools where you can see points of interest, the schools, shopping, restaurants, all that stuff nearby. Do you guys see that? Okay. He can look at photos the same way you can. He can scroll through, get a larger view, and then he can go and actually click on an exact property and see more information about that property as well. Now the information they're given here, it's all the same information that they would see on a client full report. With the addition of all the photos and the map. So here's, some specifications about this property, photos, the public remarks, the general description, schools that it's zoned to, interior features, exterior features, room and lot dimensions. On the right-hand side of the screen, we see the property where it is on the map, And we see notes for you and your agent. So let's just say that I happen to know this property is not showing until November 1st. Well, I can put a note in there that says that, so when he pulls this up, he's going to see it. Okay? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go back to results really quick. So another new thing I should say that we have on this client portal is right here, start a new search. Okay? So here's something we know. You would set them up on a client gateway, and inevitably they'd go to har.com or some other website and run completely different search with completely different criteria than what they gave you, right? Right. So the idea behind this is they can actually start a new search with completely different criteria than what they gave you from right here. But the benefit is you'll actually see that search. You'll still see their favorites. You'll see the notes they make, all of that stuff. So it's giving them a little more control, but you're still able to see what they're doing. So when you go to My Searches, you're going to see My Searches, meaning their searches, and My Agent Searches, the searches you set up for them. Okay. On Favorites, we'll be able to see wherever he marked or where he categorized his favorites, possibilities, and discards. Messages, we'll see emails that I sent him, as well as any property notes that he or I have made. And then My Agent, okay? So if you remember in this My Matrix, My Information section, the portal profile, if you guys remember seeing this screen right here, do you guys remember this? So this, whatever I put here, is right here in My Agent. So this is why I said you don't want them to go click My Agent and see a blank screen, right? So put something in here. So I told you guys I just put my bio in there. You can really put anything you want. Links to your listings or your office listings. Remember, I put a video in here, and I did not have to be super tech savvy to do it. I just copied and pasted the link. And then here's my contact information. So again, take some time and get this set up. That way, when they do get it, if they do click the My Agent button, it's all nice and set up the way you want. Okay? So what do you guys think about this client portal?
I like it.
I think it's a pretty big step up from the client gateway before. It's really interactive.
I think buyers had more options doing their own searches than we had sending them.
Right. So yeah, so this is giving them a little more control and it's more interactive and things like that. Yeah. All right. So
Especially if you can see what they do their own search. Hey, look,
yeah,
these.
if they're creating their own searches in there and you can see it, that's really helpful, right? Okay. So again, that was auto email, pages 49 through 54 in your manual. I think you guys can see that there's not too much to it once you find what button to click to start it. So definitely, practice with that. Maybe set it up for yourself just so you can see the process and all of that stuff. But definitely start using that because it's a really helpful tool, much better than what we had before.
I have a question. For example, I have buyer and they are looking to different areas, one Bel Air, one Katy. Can I put them all together?
You can, so she said she has a buyer who's looking for two different things, a property in Bel Air and a property in Katy. You can either put both of those in the same search, or you can do two different searches and it'll just organize them separately. Yeah. So either way. Okay. Yes, sir.
I saw something a while ago, the cloud CMAs.
What about the Cloud CMA?
Whatever comments.
So we briefly talked about the Cloud CMA earlier. Basically, Cloud CMA,
More options.
you have more options. It's a little more customizable than the standard CMA wizard. So on our button bar, it was one of the actions that was available there. I can pull it back up to show you guys. On the button bar, once it gets loaded here, on actions, it was right here. So we have the standard CMA, quick CMA, and cloud CMA. And remember, if you guys remember, I said that this one is a platinum tool. and it's just a lot more customizable than the other one. But again, in the CMA class and in the video that I mentioned to you guys, if you're not a Platinum subscriber and would like to see Cloud CMA, I would suggest doing that because you can see a preview of it.
Thank
You're welcome. Okay, so we spent most of our time in search because obviously that's one of the most important thing, really, not one of the most important thing in here. So we spent most of our time in search. We talked about 4 different ways to search. We talked about customizing the results grid. We spent a lot of time on our button bar. So now we have a few other things to discuss in Matrix that are also important, but of course we're not going to spend as much time on them as we did search. So moving on over now to public records. When I hover my mouse over public records, we see 2 options, realist tax and mud bond information. Most of you have probably seen this mud bond information PDF before. It has all of the MUD districts in the Houston and surrounding areas with their tax rates and bonds information in it. Then public records is also right there for realist tax. Realist tax is our tax program for any new agents in the room. If you're not familiar with realist, that's where you can find tax data for any property in the state of Texas. All of them are in there. Every county in the state of Texas is in there. You can print labels from there and things like that. We do have a separate realist class if anybody's interested in that. It's a 2-hour class and you get 2 hours of CE for it. Now, I should go ahead and tell you though that realist will eventually have an expiration date. Yeah, we don't know exactly when, but we expect sometime in 2018 for there to no longer be a realist, okay? This is a good thing, though. I see some concerned faces. This is a good thing. This is a good change because what they're going to do is they are going to integrate that tax data into Matrix. So I won't have to go to 2 different programs to get that data. It's all going to be in Matrix, okay? So that's exciting. We're looking forward to that. We don't know an exact date yet. I've basically just been told sometime in 2018. I would guess not in the next couple of months in 2018. I would guess closer to maybe summer or around this time next year, okay? So just be aware of that, a change that's coming, but we're excited about that change. So be aware that will be there. Also, some changes coming with MUD. With the new input, with the new add edit information, they plan to auto-populate some of this data in there for you. They do plan to get that all integrated and auto-populated and fill out that form for you and all of that stuff. So it's going to be awesome. We're excited. It's all going to communicate.
Does that
Yes.
really take you directly to the HCAD?
There are links within Realist that do take you, yes, directly to HCAD.
Is that in that realist tax?
Yes, but remember it's also, you have Realist, the tax report for a particular property, you can also click these icons here. Okay, moving on over to stats. This is page 56 in your manual, stats. Matrix does have some pretty good statistical reports in here. They're really customizable. This is something we've been missing before. We don't really have good customizable statistics until now. Realist has some statistics. We have some HER tools that have statistics, but these are really customizable. If you see, they have some different presets here. If I'm looking for sale to list price ratios or list price to square foot ratios or things like that. So let's just say maybe I want list price by square foot ratios. And I'm going to do single family and somebody give me a subdivision. Town Lake. Is there an E or anything? Okay. And let me put a zip code just in case there's another Town Lake somewhere. What was the zip code?
77433.
Thank you. Okay. Now I can put in more criteria. Maybe I want only the sale to list price ratios for the 4-bedroom homes, right? Or maybe, certain square feet or whatever the case is. I'm going to leave it at this just so you guys can see. Now before I hit generate, I want to show you customize. On customize, you can set the time frame. It's just taking a second to load here. On customize, you can set the time frame. So here we go. It's set on past 5 years. I can do past 10 years, custom. I can do year to date, just the previous 12 months. So I'll just do the past 12 months. You can even change how the chart looks. It's on a smooth line right now. I could do columns, right? So you can make whatever changes here you want as far as the view. And then when I hit generate, it's going to generate my little chart here. There we go. Right, so there's my list price per square foot for for Town Lake single family. Okay, now you can pretty much tell what those numbers are, but you can also click data right up here, and it will give you the exact dollar amount. So if you're looking for that, you can export this onto a CSV. If you guys see it at the very bottom, you can also print or email this from here. Okay, you can also hit save. And save this report for later, right? So I could save it, and then if you remember on my home screen, I actually did have some saved there. So on my home screen, you see where it says my stats? So if, for example, I'm looking for sell to list price ratios in Memorial West, right? I saved this months ago, but every month it updates with the most current data, okay? So just keep that in mind there. So it's really helpful. So if I set one up, you know, a couple months from now, it might come in handy, right? So this was all in stats. Again, they have some defaults there that you can utilize and customize. And then don't forget you can save them for later. Okay, moving over to market reports. Depending on if you have broker level access or not, you will see a different list than I do. Everybody should see inventory counts, ranking reports, and real estate trends. People with broker level access will also be able to see agent, office, and company production. Now on finance, we did have financial calculators in Tempo and Infusion. They did bring some of the financial calculators from Tempo right in to Matrix, so we see net proceeds and buyer closing costs. They brought those right in. But Matrix did have its own calculators in here as well. So you'll see things like home financing, personal financing, investment, and retirement. Those last three are not at all your job as a realtor. But under home financing, you do have an amortization schedule, a rent versus buy worksheet, things like that. Links, if you remember on my home screen, I had external links. Do you guys remember seeing this? This links is the same as this links. They just duplicated it there for you. You will not see admin. You will see help. So if you remember, at the beginning of class, I gave you guys a website. Do you remember what it was? har.com/matrix. If you didn't get that written down or you came in right after that, on har.com/matrix, remember there's the video tutorials, the quick start guide, which is the manual for today's class. You can also sign up for a webinar, sign up for another class, whatever the case is there. Now, in Matrix, you also have this help over here on the right-hand side. The difference between this and what I just showed you, these were created by Matrix developers, so their screenshots may look a little different. The stuff that you see here were created by HR staff, so it's going to look the same as yours. Yeah. So just be aware of that. You also do have CoreLogic Live Chat, okay? If you see in the top right-hand corner of my screen, CoreLogic Live Chat. So if you're anything like me, I hate having to call somewhere to get support. If they have live chat on their website, I get on there and I live chat. That's exactly what this is. I have tested them a bit. I went on there and I asked them a question I know the answer to just to see how well they answered it, how quickly they answer it, and they did a good job every time that I checked. And I've actually heard some really good feedback from our members from them as well. So again, if you do run into just like a little hiccup and you don't feel like calling HAR, you can always click that button there and chat. Okay? This is, I don't think it actually is 24/7. I think the hours are extended a little more than what HARs are, but I don't think it's 24/7. And I guess because they're open right now, it's not going to tell me.
What are your hours?
I don't know if I have a choice on that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, we actually finished with a little time to spare, so I'm sure nobody's going to be upset about that. I'm going to put my information back up on the screen and go ahead and pass out our CE rosters and the course instructor evaluations. Oh, thank you. Thank you.